allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Everybody be seated. Ms. Wilson, can you do the roll call? Mrs. August, present. Mr. Amaranda?
Present.
Mr. Ferrioli?
Here.
Mr. Grable?
Here.
Mrs. Kennedy? Present. Mrs. Adams? Present. Mr. Annucci?
Present.
Mrs. Donnelly? Present. Mrs. Manzi? Present. Mr. Middleman?
Present.
Mr. Rex here? Anybody notify them where we are? Thank you. Was there any changes to the meeting? Okay, moving on to suspension of the planning session. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Davis.
So about 45 days ago, we presented to the Board of Education and to the public the Smart Schools Investment Plan, and it has been on the website for the last 35 days for public comment. And tonight, we're going to formalize it and put it as a hearing. And once that has been formalized, we will have a board resolution to adopt it, and then we can move forward with looking for New York State education approval for the Smart Schools. So I'm going to introduce to you Mr. Patrick Davis, who is our Director of Technology for the schools, and he's going to be the hearing this afternoon.
Of our current technology. I'll give you a little bit of history with this. What I did about years ago, we had Dr. Elder over here, and we started to move forward with technology. And several years ago, we were able to and Dr. Rose said, I going to 2% tax cap. We're going to maintain our existing equipment, not add anything.
Yeah, you're tethered.
Tethered.
Hey, that one's mine.
Yeah, I know that.
Oh.
Underneath the microphone.
Oh, sorry.
So our current infrastructure is about 7 to 10 years old. We have 3 comp switches. 10 years ago, we replaced, and since then, we've replaced certain high-end, high-use switches. So some of them are still a little bit on that 7 years. We have about 2,300 computers ranging from 6 to 8 years old. Our secondary level wireless. We started wireless about 6 years ago when we district-wide we were able to implement these. At the time, that was state-of-the-art 802.11n. By today's standards, it's pretty outdated. We just finished up the elementary wireless installed this year. That is for the latest grade in AC. We've got 400 iPads. Most of these are first and second generation iPads that are used for purchase for special ed and our eSpark program. We have about 105 Chromebooks. These were the new devices that came from the range of the top money that we have at the end of the last year. We have 200 plus printers that are 4+ years old. We have 120 laptops that are in use in the high school that are 4+ years old. Currently, currently about approximately 65% of our classrooms have some form of interactive technology. Whether that be a smart board, a projector, some kind of TV camera. We have a very robust, what's called virtual environment. And back in the old days, we used to have what were called IBM mainframes and what were called dumb terminals. Much of technology is going back to that, where all of the horsepower is housed in our main data center, and we're using what are called WISE terminals, and basically dumb terminals that connect back to the high school, and they give students Windows 7 desktop, latest and greatest software. All administrators, faculty, and students, grade 3 through 12, currently have access to all district resources when on campus, using this what's called VDI, this virtual environment. This past year, we set up our Google domain for Google Docs. We launched a pilot program for Google Docs that currently is about 3 teachers and about 300 to 350 students. We've got state-of-the-art graphics and photo labs that are all Mac-based. We show up there in instructional computer labs. We have about 20 computer labs throughout the entire district. 6 in high school, 3 math labs in Connetquot High School. Some of these labs are small. They're not really considered a full computer lab. They're highly specialized for music, for media. We have 3 computer labs in Oakdale Middle School, in Harvard Middle School, Greenwich Elementary School, 1 for C-Class, and I think it's about total full-on labs throughout the entire district. From a mobile part and a mobile perspective, we have 6 laptop parts in Connetquot High School, 2 in each of the middle schools, and we have 3 Chrome parts in Connetquot High School that are currently part of our Google Docs rollout. We have 3 iPad cards that were used for eSmart, the pilot program, the documented call currently. Now over some of our technology initiatives between last year and this year. Last year we replaced AG7's photo lab and high-end graphics lab with Mac equipment. We created a state-of-the-art Mac media classroom, media lab in the high school. We expanded the eSmart pilot program, updated the cafeteria system with both software and hardware, migrated our cafeteria system to a new lunch money, my lunch money to my school box. Purchased and installed 47 new smart boards as well as PCs for those smart boards. This year, we've purchased another 143 smart boards as well as PCs that go with them. We purchased PCs as needed for preparation as we move to our new financial system, Envision. We purchased and installed 200 new wireless access points in elementary buildings. We upgraded wireless controllers, which is really the main brains that run our wireless infrastructure. We created a Google Docs domain. We purchased 3 Chrome cards, and we replaced the Boston phone system with what's called their Bio IP office. Now we start looking at our 3-year plan for the next 3 years. Our plan is pretty robust. We're looking to replace our entire wired infrastructure. Again, that's somewhere between 7 and 10 years old. We're looking to keep moving forward with interactive technology in classrooms, being smart boards, being interactive TVs, and other, classroom technology. End-user equipment purchase and replacement, and phone system update district-wide. We started off with Boston. We do need to upgrade the rest of the buildings. In year 2, we're looking at doing generator acquisitions for both central office as well as Cherokee. We're looking at new security enhancements, secondary wireless replacement. Again, our secondary wireless infrastructure is 6+ years old. And user equipment and purchase and replacement. Year 3, we're looking at kind of rotating going with end user equipment purchases, security enhancements, and upgrades to our data center. Now we'll get a bit more detail of what each one of those years is. The wiring infrastructure, all our electronic switches will be replacing all our data cards that give us the latest and greatest high-speed connections to all data. The interactive technology for classrooms will be whiteboards. Where required and where appropriate, we'll be looking at LED touch TVs that support the New York State curriculum initiatives. The document counts for teachers as well. The end user equipment replacement will be computer labs, 4 of them, 4 laptop cards, 2 Chrome cards, purchase of 4 additional iPad cards, as well as replace selected desktop computers. And again, the phone system will replace the balance of the phone system in the district. Our second year, we're going to look to be able to do generator acquisitions for our critical hubs and operations of central office and Cherokee Elementary School. We chose Cherokee because it's our north load building and it's considered our disaster recovery center. Security enhancements, integrate with the phone system, secondary wireless replacement, and again, end user purchases replacement, again, more computer labs. We're looking to get back on a rotation of replacing a certain amount of technology, a percentage of technology every year. So we never run into where I need to come up to the Board of Education that can hear me and say, I need $3 or $4 million to replace old piece of equipment. And again, year 3 comes down to where we're looking to replace 8 more computer labs, additional computer laptop cards, iPad cards, replacing of 100 plus printers, Chrome cards, desktop computers, upgrading our security with upgrading some of the security cameras, the access control, and replacing servers and storage in our data center. Now we come down to how do we fund this?
So Pat gets the fun part. He gets to talk to you about all the good stuff and the equipment and everything that's going into kids' hands and teachers' hands. And I get to tell you how we're going to make sure that this actually comes true. So what you'll see in front of you are 3 buckets of funding sources. The first one is the Smart Schools allocation, and that was voted on by you folks as voters in the 2014 election in New York State. So this is New York State grant funded, and there's no additional cost to taxpayers to access these funds. The second 2 buckets of money are what we call both multi-year purchase plans. And this is basically in lines of like a lease. So what happens when you go to a 5-year BOCES multi-year purchase plan, you actually get about $850,000 worth of purchasing power up front, and then you pay off the loan over 5 years. That gets us approximately 40% state aid return to us, and that would be accessible again down the line in our budget cycle about 5 years from now. The third source is a 3-year multi-year purchase that gets you about $500,000 to $550,000 worth of purchasing power. It's in your budget as a $200,000 budget line, but you get all the equipment up front for our kids and our teachers to access right away. Again, about 40% of that is returned to us in BOCES aid every year. So if you look at which bucket of funds we're looking to access for each one of the different projects that we're looking at, these are the Smart Schools funds that we're looking to access. That top plan, year 1, 2016-17, moving into the next school year, is the $1.8 billion in wired infrastructure update that was already voted on by the voters of Connetquot schools in the capital project of 2014. And what's really nice about that is it's also been approved already by SEB. So it took them about 18 months to turn around that approval. So as soon as we are ready to say yes, let's move forward with the Smart Schools investment plan, which is what this hearing is about tonight, we can actually begin with a letter of intent, which will tell New York State that we're ready to access some of the free funds that you're giving us as a school district, and we'll be able to start doing this project. Year 2 hasn't been priced out yet because it's something that we would need to work with our architects in order to make sure all the wiring is in place to do what we're looking to do. So we're looking at generator acquisition, we are looking at security enhancements, we're looking at secondary wireless replacement. All of our elementary schools this year became the wireless structure, so we're ready to roll out some one-to-one initiatives with our elementary schools. And our end user equipment and replacement will also happen in the second year as we move through the Smart Schools. In year 3, we will look again to look for end user equipment purchase and replacement. So we have computer labs all over the district. We have computers in individual classrooms. These are the kind of things that last between 5 and 8 years, depending on how often they're used and how often their software is updated. So we'll be looking to replace the ones that are at the end of life. We'll also look to enhance security, and we'll make sure that our data center equipment is updated and replaced. Here's what Smart Schools allowed us to do. Smart Schools allowed us to build pre-kindergarten classrooms if we needed in our district. It allowed us to replace portable classrooms, which we don't have, so we didn't need to access it for that. It is allowing us to upgrade our high-tech security. It's also allowing us to increase our school connectivity. And it's also allowing us to look at our classroom technology and devices and add to what we have for our students and our teachers' access. What's not permitted in Smart Schools, you're not permitted to warranty any of the equipment that you purchase with Smart Schools, with Smart Schools money. You're not allowed to upgrade your phone systems. And this is something that we truly believe that we need in order to make sure that our system, our schools are as safe as they can possibly be with all the access that we need. And that's something that we're going to look to use a different pocket of money for. You're not allowed to do professional development, which doesn't make any sense because as we begin to roll out new technology and new software, it's really important that both our teachers and our students know how to use it, so that's something that we would use our BOCES funding for. It's not permitted to have additional staff or to increase our internet bandwidth, nor are you permitted to pay your BOCES fees with Smart Schools. So here's the Smart Schools timeline. So we had an administrative district review with our architects and our building survey. We actually did that in 2013 in order to be ready for the bond in 2014. We created the investment plan with community consultation, which was our steering committee. And it was a steering committee of students, teachers, parents, and business officials from the area and administration. Then we did a Board of Education presentation about 6 weeks ago. We put it on our website for community feedback. So you can see we're checking off those lists as we move back. And today is our Board of Education hearing and resolution. After this night, we will do our letter of intent to the State Education Department, or SED. And SED has already pre-approved that $1.8 billion plan that we had put up for as part of the bond. So we're hoping for an expedited additional approval. And then we'll commence the project. So this is the BOCES 5-year finance plan. It's about access to about $800,000 worth of materials and equipment. And year 1, which is 16-17, will be an acquisition year. So what you will see in the acquisition year is the purchase of the equipment that we're going to use for the remainder of the life of the loan. So we're looking to purchase the additional 100 interactive whiteboards that will finalize interaction in each one of our educational spaces. Replacement of 4 computer labs scattered throughout the district. Replacement of 4 laptop carts, again, scattered throughout the district. Purchasing additional Chromebook carts and an additional 150 desktop computers, which will go into different computer labs and different classrooms. So that will happen in year 1, and then the next 4 years, we will be able to use that equipment as we pay off that multi-year loan. The second piece of the BOCES financing plan is the $500,000 acquisition, which is our updated hybrid phone system, which will begin in the year 2016-17. Again, it will be an acquisition year where we pay $200,000 toward the purchase, and the next 2 years will be payment, but we will be using the phones the entire time. So this is really the interesting part of the investment plan, and unfortunately I can't touch the screen, which I could when we were in the boardroom, in order to show you how we have to make sure that moving forward we're able to replace all of the equipment that the Smart Schools plan is purchasing for us. So you'll see a bunch of circles up there. And what you will see in circle, and I'm going to start in the middle circle. So in the middle circle, it says 2015-16 acquisition. That's this year. So in this year's budget, we acquired about $850,000 worth of technology, which Pat discussed before. You probably saw the rollout. We have an additional about 137 smartboards that have been placed in classrooms. We have Chrome carts that have been placed in certain places. And that then is our acquisition year. And you'll see that it's a five-year long-term financing plan. So we'll pay in 2016, 17, 18, 19. This allows us to budget appropriately and not spike the budget every time we want to purchase more and additional equipment. That money will come free again in 2021. So now if we move back to this smaller circle, this is our 3-year BOCES purchasing plan. In 2016-17, we'll be acquiring the hybrid phone system for installation throughout the district. We will pay in 17-18, 18-19, and that additional $200,000 will come up and free for additional purchases in 2019-20. So why do you roll it this way, Linda? That's really the question. When you look at the bottom one, that's the 5-year purchase plan. And there's a reason why we did a 3 and a 5 when we had a 5 this year as well. If you continue to do this over the course of time, your budget stays flat. So basically, every year we have a $600,000 payment to BOCES. And every 3 years, we have that lump sum available to us again. So if in 2019-20, we want to make a purchase of about $500,000, we can, and then start that cycle again. Or we can do a straight purchase rather than a lease and purchase about $200,000 of equipment. But if Pat comes to me and says, Linda, we need to do the wired infrastructure again, I need $1.8 million worth of purchasing power. If we wait for the next year, we will then have $400,000 of BOCES. We can do that over a 4 or 5-year plan, which will get us either $1,600 or $1,800, $1.8 million, versus worth of purchasing power. So by staggering the payments like this, you can actually decide and plan in the future exactly when you need to purchase things, and our budget stays flat the whole time. So we put that $600,000 payment, we can do it a 3-year plan, a 4-year plan, a 5-year plan, which gives us more purchasing power, or we can hold off and we can lump together these purchases and make a larger purchase. And that's really the main focus of the Smart School Investment Plan, because you need to have a plan in order for the district to continually replace and upgrade any of the materials that are purchased with the Smart Schools Plan. And that is the end of the hearing. So I'm going to ask my board members to move back off the stage.
I know, I was bumping you, and I was like, oh,
I was like, I didn't know if they...
I thought you were stealing my plug. And I wouldn't mind, you could share my plug.
Okay, we're looking for public comment on the Smart School Investment Plan only. So if anybody has any questions about the presentation that Ms. Adams and Mr. Davis have presented, please stand to the podium and ask your questions.
That was actually one of my first questions. I saw that there's a presentation tonight, and we're concerned, a lot of parents are concerned about the Chromebooks, and we want to know what are the cons of this with the Chromebooks and our children and their privacy.
Mr. Miller, would you like to answer that question?
I may defer to Mr. Davis first a little bit.
Yeah, could I tell, like, Dee, if you'd like, I'll take that.
Yes.
They're really, from the idea of the Chromebooks, there is no con. If you think about, I've heard, I get a comment the other night that we gave the students email accounts because the login is last initial or last name, first initial at ccsdli.org. That's basically just a login to get into Google Docs. very similar to like our internal network. We have certain permissions and modules that we can open up and allow students as well as faculty and staff access to certain modules and certain permissions. We've got Google Docs cranked down very tight right now. No student has access to any email. They have access to Google Docs, the slides, sheets, as well as Google Classroom. That's right now all we're giving students. We will start evaluate as teachers and as the need arises for some of the additional modules. We'll address those modules and see, do we have a policy in place that addresses giving those rights to the students as well as faculty and staff.
Thank you.
I just have a follow-up question if I can.
Sure.
What about if there's a way around it? How do you, kids will find that way? How will you be able to block that? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Google
Am I making
Docs,
that clear?
okay.
I know my son can find his way around anything.
Google Docs and most of what most people don't realize is the Google, the Amazons, their systems are typically more secure than what most school districts have. Many of my colleagues are looking to put their actual school data out into Google Docs because of how secure it is. Security isn't really an issue. They are all using SSL certificates and encryption with this data, so there's really no way to get around it.
And just how do you protect our children's data from Google taking their data and their information that they put in?
There are end-user agreements in place with Google now that we retain all rights for the data. Google cannot give the data out. If we elect to delete and no longer work with Google Docs, we get to take all that data right back from them.
Perfect. Thank you.
Is there any more questions regarding this topic? Okay, we're moving on. Okay, resolved that the Board of Education adopts the Smart Boards Investment Plan so presented. So I need a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're suspending the planning session. I need a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're moving on to Smart School Investments Plan public hearing. I think we did that already. Okay, we're reconvening to public session, planning session.
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now we're going to the minutes of the Board of Education, minutes of May 10th, 2016. Business meeting / public hearing. I need a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of the May 17th, 2016 certification of annual meeting, budget vote, and board education. Election, sorry.
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to commendations and education spotlight.
So, I may not be going in the right order, and I know I'm not going in the right order.
It comes out.
John DeMott, are you here tonight? Come on in. Is your teacher here tonight too? So then, John, I'm going to present this to you, okay? So John DeMott is an 8th grader at Oakdale Middle School. He studied the work of artist Chuck Close and then created a portrait in the celebrity media artist style. John's portrait was uploaded onto the worldwide online gallery site called Artsonia.com. And John was selected as Artist of the Week on the site, receiving a plaque and a gift certificate to purchase art supplies.
the celebrity I was doing was someone that really interests me a lot, and even after switching from art to technology, I suddenly just had a passion to keep going and finish my project until the end.
Hold your certificate up. Hold your certificate up. There you go. You did a fine job, by the way. I would have been really nervous. Here you go. Again.
I think I saw Mrs. Rubin here. Yeah, right there. Come on over. So the fifth annual I Love the Park Day was on Saturday, May 7th, and we had a whole bunch of Idaho students who volunteered their time weeding, raking, and beautifying the park. What park were they in?
We were at the Bayard Cutting Arboretum, and we did, I came with my garden gloves, and we thought we were going to rake and weed. And they looked at us and said, we need help working on the island. And the island at the Arboretum, a lot of the water is coming on shore. And they asked us to fill sandbags, lots of sandbags, tie them and put them along the shore. And then after that, we removed a lot of ivy from the island as well. So we worked really, really hard, these students. And I knew we were going to work hard when they gave us 2 power bars and 2 juices. I looked and I went, oh God, I think they're serious. A few parents kind of whispered to me, how did you get us into this? But I was proud because the people at Bayard Cutting said to me, they don't get a whole lot of volunteers coming in for I Love the Park Day. And I'm hoping that we at Idle will be going every year from now on to help our parks. To let you know that it was a small group of us, as well as 3 other adults that joined us as well from different, from the community. So it was a great day, and the students, I hope they're all here. Jenna, Aiden, Alyssa, Lauren, Anthony, and Brian. I think you're all here.
We should have all worn these shirts. We've all got these shirts.
Birthday, excellent.
Jenna. She's not. Hey guys, you see that lady up there? Next year, you have to bargain with her. Tell her it's 4 power bars and 5 apple juices each. So that's a lady with the glasses on. Make sure you got some bargaining power. But I want to congratulate you guys. Thank you guys.
So what was the best thing about the day, besides the power bars and the juice boxes?
It was just helping the community and basically helping it, it's okay.
Anything else you guys want to add?
Maybe just hanging out with friends, making sure we did something good to help us at the community.
Making small pictures. Looking guy in the front. There you go. Good looking girl. There's the other good looking girl. Need some work on my yard, by the way. You guys available? There you go. Yeah. Nice. Very nice.
Thank you guys. Great job. Great job.
I am going to go out of order because I have Mrs. Rubin up here right now, and And I have to say, Mr. Rubin, these ladies and gentlemen actually sang for me on Arbor Day. So I'm going to be really honored to see you guys again. And, well, are they here? Because I would love for them to sing for us. All right, so this was the jingle contest. I think this was the first year, correct? That there was ever a jingle contest at Bayard Cutting Arena for Earth Day as a celebration. And I was lucky enough to do some volunteering that day as well, and got to meet these young ladies and gentlemen who had won the jingle contest. So I'm going to ask you to call them down for me.
Haley, Hannah, Ainsley, Brian, Lauren, and Alyssa.
So do you think you can sing this? You did such a good job that day. All right, face this way. The one in the middle always gets to hold the mic.
Litter, litter, litter is not good at all. Litter, 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 please don't do it at all. Please don't litter on the streets. Please don't litter at the beach. Please don't litter in the ocean, or you're gonna cause a commotion. Litter, litter, litter is not good at all. Litter, 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 please don't do it at all. Earth Day.
No, she's not here. Hannah. Ainsley. Brian.
Awesome job, everybody. Thank you so much.
That's great.
Thank you very much.
I also noted that there was also a poster contest, and we had a kindergarten winner and from Sycamore, and we had 3 high school winners from the high school, Connetquot High School, part of that day. So Connetquot did join in.
Good job. Good job. All right, Ms. Piscatelli, come on up.
Mr. P.
All right, so I'm going to ask Coach Piscitelli here to speak for a few minutes, but first I want to say the girls' JV basketball team is being recognized for receiving outstanding sportsmanship honors by Section 11 New York State Public High School Athletic Association. They exemplified standards of sportsmanship as assessed by opposing teams within each league or division. So that's awesome. So I'm going to let you talk about this.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. The girls really all the applause for them because honestly, this year, I have never worked, I've been coaching for 14 years. I've never worked with a great group of girls. They've been awesome. They know that. I've told them that time and time again. One of our biggest things throughout the year was really just coming to work hard, have fun, and learn. And I got to tell you, every day, it was just, we did that. And it almost made my life easy. I had to come up with new challenges for them. And one of the biggest things that I want from them is to respect the game, respect their opponents, respect coaches, respect the officials, which sometimes could be a little difficult. If you're an athlete, you understand. But they did that, okay? There were games, they were down, they were losing big, and you know what? You heard the bench going, cheering those girls on that were on the floor. We were winning, they were cheering those girls on. They picked up opponents. It was just a phenomenal season, and this is an amazing award. Congratulations to them, because this is all for them. I'm sorry, and also, this is Sophie Mazzao, she's our manager. She is a senior who helps out with the varsity and the JV, and I have to tell you, this is someone who, everything, stats, gets my clipboard for me, gets the girls water. I mean, there is nothing that she holds back. She is a varsity field hockey player. She's going to play field hockey at Hendrix College in Arkansas. Kate Agnes. Alexis Brown. Victoria Douglas.
Jar Mission.
John Mission. Okay, Eric John Mission.
Go, Erica.
Madison Jasinski. Lauren Kelly. Kendall Lilly. Whitney, well, Whitney's not here. Whitney. Emily Monahan, Captain Emily Monahan. Abby Navarez. And finally, Carissa Wood.
We're going to switch to get this one, so we can get a nice picture.
Ladies, good job.
Otherwise, I photobomb it.
There you go. How to do this. Girls, hold the certificate. Who's Monahan? Who's Monahan here? Is that you? Did you know your mother was one of my students? You just as pretty. There you go. One. Perfect. Thank you.
Can I just stay for 1 second?
Wait, parents.
Parents, 1 second.
We got a camera.
Thank you.
We already have the other picture.
Yeah.
Did I see Madison's art? Okay, so Madison Daly is a ninth grade student at Connetquot High School who's being recognized for winning the Connetquot Chamber of Commerce logo contest. Madison will receive a $250 check at the Connetquot Chamber's annual scholarship luncheon on June 16, 2016. Want to tell us about the contest, Daly?
Not me being the principal, this is a true person who inspires these wonderful and talented young students. Amy Miller.
Hello.
That was slick.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to present Madison Daly. Madison, you want to come on down? She's a ninth grader. She's in Miss Dossie's studio media class. And once again, it was for the winning logo for Connetquot Chamber of Commerce.
Show you what it is, and
If Madison, you could tell a little bit about your design.
I tried to incorporate the train station and the airport along the lakes and all of it.
yeah, it looks Thank you, great job, great job.
Hold that up. I've seen that before. Didn't I see you with last year at high school? Very nice.
Okay, well, I'm up here. I have the privilege of teaching a very, very talented student, Caitlin Kennaugh. She is an 11th grader in my advanced photography class. Caitlin is she's a pleasure. She's a joy. I love seeing her face every day. She's always so enthusiastic when she comes into class. She tries everything. And she's being recognized this evening because back in April, she submitted an absolutely gorgeous photograph for a competition that is from the Gerwin Nursing and Rehabilitation Center in Comac. The category that she submitted her photograph was a student entry, and we were happy to find out that she was the grand prize winner for her photograph. Her work is going to be on permanent display at the center, and she is going to be receiving an award. However, we do not know yet what it is, so it's going to be a surprise. Hopefully it's something really good. But we would love to recognize her this evening, so Caitlin, come on down. So I have to embarrass her a little bit. I want you guys to take a look at her photograph, and Caitlin, you want to talk a little about it?
So this photograph is, I like taking pictures of really detailed things like flowers and stuff like that. So one day we were at the beach and my friends were looking through like sunglasses and they were like, oh, that's a really cool picture. So I was like, okay, so I just took it on my iPhone and this happened.
There you go. Congratulations. You want to come in? Good imagination.
Some talented kids at Connetquot, that's for sure. Here we go.
Thank you.
Commercial break. All right, I have two more very deserving high school students that are going to be appreciated tonight and honored tonight. Maria Dusak and Chelsea Connetquot. Why don't you guys come down? The student that I'm going to talk about this evening is extremely special. Her name is Marina Dusak. Back in, oh my gosh, I want to say the spring, the town of Islip every year holds a Student Achievement Award. And there's various topics and categories. One of the categories was for service to people in need. When I read this online about this particular award, there was just one person's name who came to my mind, and that was Marina. I'm trying to get emotional. I submitted a letter to the town of Islip, and I would just like to read you a little bit about it so you can learn a little bit of Marina and how she is and how wonderful she is. Where there is hope, there is faith. Where there is faith, miracles happen. This is the quote Marina Dusak lives by. Marina is a sophomore at Connetquot High School. I have had the pleasure of getting to know Marina in my 9th period photography class. Marina is kind, mature, and a dedicated young lady. She always puts 100% into every project she completes in class, treats others with respect, and always wears a smile on her face. Always. Last year, Marina was diagnosed with leukemia. She is currently still in treatment and is getting stronger every day. The Cancer Center for Kids at Winthrop University Hospital, as well as the Make-A-Wish Foundation, have been very supportive of Marina and her family. Marina has experienced the most important of encouragement and kindness from others. Inspired by her own journey and as well as other cancer patients, Marina decided last summer to give back to these organizations. She planned, and I believe she started last summer, right? She planned what was called Marina's Great
big give back, and it was a huge Chinese auction. It was unbelievably huge. Sal knows. There was over 200 baskets? 368 baskets that were raffled off. In addition, Southwest Airlines, Disney, as well as many local organizations also donated to the fundraiser. The event was a huge success, raising over $18,000 on I'd like to just close by talking about a quote. It's by Dr. Martin Luther King, and I really feel like this does sum up Marina. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in moments of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at times of challenge. Marina's strength and bravery during this difficult time is an inspiration to everyone who meets her. Through her kindness and generosity, Marina is helping others battle this horrible disease.
So Chelsea received the Town of Islip Senior Achievement Award for the Performing Arts, and Mr. Lasher couldn't be here tonight. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got this award?
My concert choir and music theory teacher, Mr. Drinkwater, told me a while ago. He's also my accompanist at a choir at Yorktown School. He came up to me and he said that he recommended me for this, and he wrote a letter, and I thought that was the sweetest thing in the world. He is one of those teachers that have inspired me to go into music in college, so I will be going into music education in the future thanks to him and other teachers like Mr. Johnson, who's also my band teacher. So it's because of them that I get to do these things and I get to do what I love every day.
Beautiful girls. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Maybe.
Otherwise, I photobomb.
She's like, I'm gonna get in there.
Congratulations, by the way. Here we go. Again. Good.
Thank you.
One of the first things that I was tasked to do as a superintendent when I was hired by the Board of Education for Connetquot Schools is get community members more involved. And so I love to honor kids, I love to honor teachers, I love to honor all the things that are going on in and around our school district. So for the first time ever, we're going to have a Connetquot coalition where we're asking all different stakeholders to come together and band together for the good of our community and our schools. And beginning that kickoff of our coalition, tonight will be the inaugural night of the Community Member of Excellence Award. The Connetquot community is a wonderful place to live. It's filled with outstanding community residents who, through hard work and dedication to their profession, achieve awards in their individual career or profession that demonstrate their leadership, excellence, and dedication to their craft. In our Connetquot School District setting, these community members can be held up as role models for our students and become mentors in their respective fields. Tonight, I'm delighted to honor two such community members of excellence in our inaugural night of the celebration of our community. So please let me introduce to you Mr. Charles Trujillo. That's okay. Mr. Trujillo has been a long-time Ronkonkoma community resident. He has spent the last 30 years working with our students as a social studies teacher at Connetquot High School. He was the inaugural advisor for the Habitat for Humanities Club, which raises more funds for Habitat for Humanity on Long Island than just about any other club on Long Island, and still does. He ran our driver's education program for many, many years. He's an active member of the Ronkonkoma Civic Association. This year, Mr. Trujillo was honored by New York State Senator Phil Boyle, being named a Teacher of Excellence. Please help me honor a Community Member of Excellence, Mr. Charles Trujillo. So I am going to ask
thank Superintendent Adams and the Board of Education for this tremendous honor. It was quite a privilege to be honored by the New York State Senate as well. Over the 30 years, I've tried to do what I can to inspire, to challenge, to provoke my students, and I can tell you that all that I've ever given to them, I've received back multiple fold. What they've given me most is what you've seen a small sample of tonight, and that is excitement and hope for our shared future. So what I'm going to do on July 1st is figure out where I can be inspired anew, where I can use my skill set to continue to make a difference, I suppose. So we have some options, and we'll take some time to figure out what it is that I'm supposed to do. But like a graduating senior, we have that mixed emotion of leaving the building that we've been in for so long, that has developed us and changed us and challenged us to go to someplace new where all those things are going to happen again. So I'm excited about that. Thank you again for that.
So our second inaugural candidate into the Community Member of Excellence Award is Mr. Richard Lochner. So please let me introduce to you. Mr. Lochner has been a longtime Oakdale resident. He has spent more than 30 years in education, beginning his career as a math teacher at LaSalle Military Academy. He has taught mathematics at Holy Trinity High School, Seaford High School, and Nassau Community College. He began his administrative career as a math department head at Brentwood High School, has been an assistant principal at North Middle School, an associate principal at Brentwood High School, the principal of South Middle School, and has been the principal of Brentwood High School for the past 6 years. Where, despite a huge increase in immigration population and English as a new language population, he's been able to increase the graduation rate by over 17%. That deserves a round of applause. He was honored at the National Association of Secondary Schools Principals Breakthrough Principal of the Year in both 2010 and 2013. This year, Mr. Lochner was honored by the School Administration Association of New York State as High School Principal of the Year. Please help me honor the Community Member of Excellence, Mr. Richard Lochner. So I'm going to hand him the mic, and that's always dangerous to a high school principal. But I'm going to do it anyway. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what inspires you.
Thank you so much. Actually, if you really knew me, you'd know that is really dangerous to give me a mic. I would like to thank Superintendent Adams very much for this honor, as well as the Board of Education and all of the members here. I do really appreciate it. You know, I have to say that sometimes the unexpected, I think, is the most gratifying. And when you gave me a call just 2 weeks ago, I obviously was not expecting it. And I tell you, I've really had 2 weeks to reflect on it. I mean, it means the world to me. It really is so nice to have my community recognize me. I just have a few comments. I would like to thank, you know, as Mr. Trupia said, he actually stole something I was going to say. That if you're in education, as you know, Ms. Adams, you really get back so much more than you give. And it's wonderful to receive this accolade, it really is. But quite frankly, I'm the one who's blessed. And I've been very, very blessed and fortunate to work for just a wonderful community. As a matter of fact, there are some parents out here, some staff members, some students, and I would just like to thank them very, very much for being here. Thank you. I would like to thank Connetquot, because I have been here since 1989. children. Actually, I can't even call them children anymore. They're young adults, and I'm so very proud of them. And although I'd like to take credit, some of the credit, my wife takes most of the credit, but in all honesty, the Connetquot schools had a great deal to do with that. You know, we sit around the dining room table every single night, and we talk about what's gone on in school, and they've had so many great experiences here, and so many wonderful teachers, and I know some of them are here this evening, and I want to thank them very, very much. So again, thank you very much for this. But I need to ask one more thing. I'm going to get, I know you're going to take my picture. Could I, you know, the props of Connetquot schools, if I could have them down here, take a picture with me, that would be great. Thank you so much. Thank you again.
Congratulations.
Just my, what about you?
She should be in the picture.
Some of your teachers as well. You're still in high school? Oh, okay. I was kidding.
Maybe just one thing.
I meant to tell you that.
Oh, my goodness.
It is I keep walking out and putting water on my wrists. It's very warm in here.
When you're turning this off, can you just make sure that if anyone comments later that you turn it back on? Okay, we can go. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. No, I'm filming it. Oh, okay. I want a large one.
Okay, so we are suspending. We're waiting on you, Nick. Okay, our student government representatives are not here tonight. I understand this week they have a banquet, actually. I think it's tomorrow, the banquet? Tomorrow is the senior banquet. Yeah, tomorrow's the senior banquet. Okay, we're suspending the planning session. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor? All right, we're moving over to the audit committee meeting. Right, reconvening it. I need a motion and a second. I'll second that. All in favor? Hey, honey, come right up. Sorry, Joe, I was looking for you.
That's okay.
Good evening. It's really difficult to follow up those presentations that were made with an audit committee report, but I will try, okay? So I'm here to talk to the Board of Education about the planning for this year's external audit. And I have some presentation materials that I distributed to you, so I'd like to just walk through them quickly if we could. Within the presentation materials, behind the table of contents on page 1, the team of individuals who are going to be responsible for assisting me are a person by the name of William Oderson. He's a CPA who has about 20 years worth of experience. Samantha Castano has about 12 years worth of experience. And then assisting Samantha will be another CPA. So the team that's in place is the same team as last year. I think understanding the school district entity is important, how Connetquot does things. School districts do things differently based upon staffing patterns. And so I think the continuity is good. Our objectives at the top of page 2, we have 4 primary objectives. We're going to express an opinion on the district's financial statements. We're going to give a report on the internal controls over financial reporting, compliance with laws and regulations. This is because the district has federal expenditures. It's under generally accepted government auditing standards. It's known as the Yellow Book audit. Also because the district is very aggressive in trying to secure federal funding, you are over the threshold for having a single audit performed. The threshold is $750,000 this year. It went up from $500,000 the year before. Just as a reminder to the Board of Education, you get almost $2 million in funding for educational purposes and about $600,000 towards your school lunch program. And so there's new guidance that we need to follow, not only the Single Audit Act, there's something called OMB Uniform Guidance, which applies to single audits for this particular year. And also because the State Education Department tells the Board of Education that the external auditor needs to do this, we perform an audit on the extra classroom activity funds. And we know that these are not governed by the business office, rather they're governed by the central treasurers throughout the district who handle the monies for children. Information regarding the audit engagement. So we're supposed to give an opinion, and it's reasonable assurance rather than absolute assurance. The absolute assurance is in the form of what your internal claims auditor does with respect to transactions. Any immaterial errors or frauds, that's not really within the design of the external audit, but the Board of Education knows from the work that we perform, in the event that we come up with something in the course of our external audit, we do communicate it to the Board of Education under what's known as a management letter. And I'm very pleased, and I'm sure the board is pleased, that the level of comments in the management letter over the last number of years is fairly minimal. And I think your business office is really proactive in implementing procedures that address whatever we may comment on throughout the year. There are no, just as a reminder, there's different levels of internal control weaknesses. There are no material weaknesses. There are no significant deficiencies. And so these are higher level breaks in the internal control structure. And you might have heard about this from your internal auditor, but just as a reminder, you have a good internal control structure in place. That management letter is just additional procedures that we feel you may want to look at going forward. We look at transactions on a test basis from your total population because we need to make sure that we can give an opinion that the financial statements fairly present. We look at the internal control structure over the financial reporting. We're not the internal auditor. Your internal auditor does a risk assessment of your whole internal control structure, but nevertheless, I look at the checks and balances over cash disbursements, over payroll, over the way benefits are processed, over the way cash receipts and aid comes in. And I make a determination as to whether or not those controls are proper so that I can come to the conclusion of being able to opine on the fact that the financial statements with respect to those transactions are fairly stated. And then at the bottom of page 2, the district's responsible for preparing their financial statements, but we do assist the school district, and that is allowed. And we also assist with the preparation of the schedule of federal expenditures. So now on page 3, the district has an awful lot of responsibilities, and not to go through all of these, but the most important ones on this page, I'm going to go to the lower part of this document, is making all the financial records and related information available. We need to make sure we don't have a scope limitation on what we're performing. Giving us unrestricted access to district personnel. Why does that need to happen? Well, we need to inquire of the people that are involved in the various financial transactions for the district. What do you do? Why are you doing it? Are you having any problems with what you're doing? Do you see something that you're uncomfortable with? And those are all confidential interviews between my staff and your staff, the Board of Education staff throughout the school district. And we do that to make sure that we're looking at the possibility of whether or not there could be fraud, or whether or not there could be a misappropriation of an asset, Could there be a misrepresentation in the financial information that comes to you, the Board of Education, throughout the year? So we've done this in the past, and we will do that again this year. At the conclusion of the audit, we ask for representations from the superintendent and the business official. Did you give us all the information that you needed to in order for us to be able to give an opinion on the financial statements? And then also we ask if we propose adjusting journal entries, which we had very few last year. Does the district record those adjusting journal entries? And we want to make sure that happens because the financial statements need to match up with the district's books and records after our audit is complete. And we do know that happens because when we come in to do our interim work, we make sure that all the numbers that are in your financial records, that are on your ST3, which is the document you submit to the state, agree with what our financial statement shows. On page 4, we have 3 standards that we have to follow. Generally accepted auditing standards, generally accepted government auditing standards, and the Single Audit Act and the uniform guidance. Any significant matters that I may come upon during the course of the audit, I feel it's my responsibility, if it's significant, to reach out to the board president at the time that that might come up. I've never had to do that in this district. I've had to do it in another district where it was really something that was high level. I don't feel it's appropriate for me to come back with a report and draft and then discuss something with the Board of Education then. So that I feel that that's my role, even though it's not published anywhere. Audit reports, we give you 3. An audit report on the financial statements, 1 on the extra classroom activity funds, and 1 on the federal single audit. 2 other written communications that we give to you. There's 1 in accordance with AUC 260, which means I tell you whether or not we encountered any difficulties when we perform the audit. We haven't had that in the past. What those adjusting journal entries are so that you get a comfort level that the financial information that you're looking at throughout the year is appropriate, and those adjustments do not necessarily materially affect that information, and whether or not the timetable had not been adhered to, or something was handled in a way that was contrary to the way that accounting pronouncements would expect it to be handled. And then if we have higher level internal control related matters, material weaknesses, significant deficiencies, I'm required to, under the standards AUC 265, communicate that to you in writing. And as the Board of Education is aware, you did not receive that communication in the year past or years past because there were no such items noted. And then I talked a little bit about the management letter. So these are some best practices that we might communicate to the Board of Education based upon the internal control structure that we reviewed. So on page 5, areas of audit emphasis. We're not the internal auditor, so we're not going to perform a risk assessment and then look at targeted areas in conjunction with what the Board of Education wants the internal auditor to look at. But I do need to look at the effectiveness and the design of the internal control structure. I need to make sure that it's appropriate, that it's working effectively, so that the financial transactions are appropriately captured, and that there's not a risk of material misstatement or misappropriation of assets or fraud. I look at management's corrective action plan. We remember that that's due to the Board of Education and the State Education Department. And that talks about, as a result of the management letter, what does the district feel is appropriate to put into place with respect to implementation of procedures to address what I might have commented on in the management letter. I'll look at your internal auditor reports and the findings. I can't rely on those in the design of my audit, but let's just say that the internal auditor, and I haven't looked at them yet because we haven't started the audit, came upon something that would impact the financial statement. Well, then I need to enhance my audit procedures to make sure that that does not materially affect the financial statement numbers. We look at significant account balances. It's typically payroll and benefits and cash disbursements. We looked at the restricted reserve activities. We look at it again, and that has to do with authorization for the use of monies in the reserves and then adds to the reserve accounts. We substantiate expenditures by function and program. How do we come to terms with, for example, we have numbers that are sitting in on the trial balance for BOCES. How do we support that? There's a contract that's signed, with the district and BOCES. There may be some changes during the year which should be authorized also. We can actually look at those BOCES codes and say, okay, this is how much the district expended, this is what the contractual provision is, and I'm just giving you an example, and the numbers match up where they don't match up, and if they don't match up, what's wrong with the control structure? And that might be a management letter comment. We haven't had that in the past. Capital project expenditures, And so you have various things that are going on in the capital projects area of your budget. We know that that's in a separate fund and that's authorized by the community. And you've been spending that on a list of things that are necessary to preserve the facilities. And so we'll look to make sure that those are authorized and that the funding sources are in accordance with the propositions that were approved. The district uses an outside fixed asset inventory company, as all school districts do, to capture the information as to what their capital transactions are. And so we'll look at that additional information that's been added to that inventory. Does it agree with the equipment expenditures in the general fund budget? Does it include the capital project transactions? Is the charge for depreciation proper? If things have been disposed of in accordance with board authorization, are those items removed from that capital asset inventory? There's two sets of financial statements, just as a reminder. The way the district maintains their books and records is the modified accrual basis. And then GASB 34 requires us also to present on the accrual basis. And you might remember that financial statement looks a little bit different. It includes capital assets, net of depreciation. It includes long-term debt, whether you're funding for it out of next year's budget or budgets 5 years from now. But that's a presentation that's required under Government Accounting Standard Board pronouncements. And so we'll look at the conversion of the modified accrual basis. This is performed by the business official and her staff to the accrual basis so that the financial reporting, we can take assurance that that's correct. There's a number of long-term liabilities. There's bonds payable, there's compensated absences, there's OPEB liabilities that are captured for financial reporting purposes. You might remember this on the GASB 34 financial statement. Are those fairly stated with respect to compensated absences? If someone was paid out for time when they left the school district, was their compensated absence calculation correct? We'll look at that. To the extent that someone's bank was enhanced, is that in accordance with whatever the bargaining unit contracts are that are in place? If someone was not in the district for the day, was their time bank reduced for the day that they weren't there? So those are some of the procedures that will apply to that. OPEB liabilities under GASB 45, the district has a report that's rendered to them. It tells us, if you might remember, this unfunded actuarial accrued liability. It's a number for financial reporting purposes. You know that you pay your health insurance as you're going along every year, but this GASB pronouncement, 45, said let's take the actuarial number, if we're paying health insurance for everyone that's working for the district now and all the retirees, and we're looking at mortality tables and how long we have to pay for it, what's this big number that we would have to fund for? And we remember that it's this ridiculous number. It's huge. And we look at that number and we say, okay, is the report that's rendered, does it make sense? Does it make sense based upon the number of employees, the insurance premiums that are paid, the discount rate that's applied? Okay. Last year was the first year that the district had a proportionate share of net pension asset and liability. And you might remember that this had to do with the two retirement systems. So the teachers' retirement system overall, because they did very well as far as their investments, had an asset. And we know that there are many participants from an employer standpoint in this system. So the profession said, okay, we need to look at that asset and we need to give each of the employers who participate their proportionate share for financial reporting purposes of this asset. And this number was captured for the first time in accordance with adoption of whatever the pronouncement was that had to be adopted, and we talked about it, their share of the net pension asset. And it was a number that was just for financial reporting purposes, $50 million. Okay, we know you don't really have that number. You can't access it. It's the difference between our investments and what we would have to pay out. So we'll look at that again. That's an audit by one of the big four firms over the retirement system assets and their liability and their investment return. And you remember on the other side that the employees' retirement system had a shortfall. And so on this financial report that you looked at last year, you had a liability for reporting purposes of about $2 million. And we remember that you're paying your contribution for both systems based upon the boards that are setting the rates, and it's based upon the salaries that are being paid. So that has nothing to do, the way you pay has nothing to do with this financial reporting piece, but we're required to audit it based upon the audit that's performed by the big four audit firms of these two pension systems. We're required to look at the federal single audit compliance requirements. And you might remember I had talked a little bit about this over a 3-year period of time. We look at major programs and minor programs, and we have to look at those programs that at least constitute 25% of your federal expenditures because you're a low-risk auditee. And there are certain parameters whereby you can spend the money. There are certain reporting requirements. There's a certain protocol in place for the federal government as far as how you communicate, how you can spend the money, and how you monitor this. So we'll look at that again. We look at all the extra classroom activity internal controls. How does the receipt and disbursement process work? What's the backup supporting documentation for both? Does it make sense? We'll perform a walkthrough, and then we'll also take a sample of transactions to make sure that that is working appropriately. And from time to time, the Controller's Office or the State Education Department releases bulletins as to the treatment for certain things. We also look at those regulatory requirements and we apply them to the external audit process. So now, page 6, the most important part, timetable. So we'll be here on June 6th to start the work, and that's the first phase where we actually identify the key internal controls, what are the procedures, and how are we going to address getting comfortable with the fact that there's a good, sound internal control structure in place, which there has been in years past. And so we'll contact the internal auditor. We're going to review the internal audit reports, contact the internal claims auditor and review the claims audit reports, interview those district personnel in private. We're going to ask the Board of Education and the key staff of the district to give us back what's known as related party information. To the extent that you comment on something, it's my responsibility to determine whether or not it's financial statement auditable, and I will look at that transaction or that relationship and see whether or not that transaction is appropriate based upon what's taking place. Corrective action plan, I talked about that a little before, and compliance with laws and regulations. I will review all of the Board of Education minutes and any audit committee minutes, do some preliminary analytical review of the account balances. What do the revenues and expenditures look like versus your budget? What do they look like versus last year's numbers at the same time? Okay. And then we'll identify the high-risk areas, and typically that's payroll, benefits, and cash disbursements. Okay. The week of August 22nd, we're anticipating that the books and records are going to be closed. We're going to perform what's known as the more substantive audit procedures. So what's behind the numbers, okay? First part, we know the internal control structure is working or it's not working, okay? We know the information that's coming to the Board of Education is appropriate because we're tying it back into the books and records, treasurer's reports, bank reconciliations, status reports. So now, what's behind the numbers, okay? Can we build up to the payroll based on the 941 forms that are filed, okay? BOCES I talked about, okay? Transportation, okay? Can we build up to the transportation expenses? And then we have to look at, as I said before, the conversion of the books and records from the modified accrual to the full accrual. I'll come back to the Board of Education with the reports in draft in October, and we'll review them and any other communications that are required to be made to the Board of Education. And then at that point, after we have that meeting, I can release that information to the State Education Department and the Office of the State Controller, whereupon if there's a management letter, the business office will follow up with creating a corrective action plan to be filed within 90 days. And then depending upon the procedures, because the uniform guidance is new this year as far as applying procedures to the federal funds, if we can get it done on time, I'll come back with that report in October, but you might remember, because this is much more complex than the general purpose financial statement, we have until March 31st of 2017. So just like this report from the previous year took some time for us to complete the procedures, we may need that additional time post-October in order to do the same, but we will have a timely filing of the data collection form and the financial statement by the mandatory deadline of March 31st of 2017. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolved that the Board of Education accept the federal single audit report of June 30th, 2016, prepared by Danowski LLP. Need a motion and a second. Motion. I'll second that? All in favor? Okay, moving over to the audit planning of 2016-17. It says 2015, I'm sorry. That it's June 30th, 2015, prepared by Colin and Danowski. I need a motion in a second, just to verify the error.
Motion.
Okay, all in favor? All right, so we're moving out of the planning session. All in favor, I'm sorry.
Aye.
Okay, moving out of the planning session, we're moving on to, I need a motion to move out. A motion? Motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we reconvene the planning session. We need a motion on that. I need a motion in a second. Craig motion, I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, now we're on to new business, discussion items. The first item of discussion is the new board member meeting for NISBA. Yes, please.
This is the annual invitation for board members to attend the Nassau Suffolk School Board Association member meeting. It's a cost of $65.
Mr. Grable, will you be attending?
No, thank you.
Okay, moving on.
We're going to go out there because we have two discussion items.
Okay, so we have science research, and then following will be college essay.
Good evening. I'd like to introduce Dr. Mary Losing, who is our chairperson for Science, Technology, and Family Consumer Services. Tonight she's going to present on the current state of our science research program, as well as some of our anticipated growth and as we move into the future. So, Dr. Losing.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm here to, as Mr. Middleton said, present about our science research program. And first, I would like to spend a little bit of time, for those that may not be familiar, talking about what the purpose of the program is, what it's designed to do. We really want our students to be able to explore areas in depth, things that they may be excited about, that they hear about in class, but they don't spend a lot of time on, and have a place where they can focus on that particular interest. We want to teach our students how to conduct research, because of course research is more than Googling something and looking at the first thing that comes up, to really understand what the research process is. We want our students to be able to have a place where they can talk with other students who are equally excited about science, about research, which is not, unfortunately, the complete student body. So we want them to have that place where that kind of conversation can be nurtured. We want to give kids an opportunity to share what they've learned with each other, and then with formal presentations and through competitions they might enter. We want our students, of course, one of the main things is that we want our students to realize that science can not only be a career, it's a major that they can study in college, and they can make it into a career. It's pretty frightening to think that the New York metropolitan area has more people here on an H-1B visa or technical people because we can't fill those jobs. So we really want to prepare our students to fill those roles if that's something that they're interested in taking on. We want them to be able to think as scientists, to be creative, to be able to see things that everyone doesn't necessarily, and that's where most scientific breakthroughs come from. We want to increase their science literacy, and we want to teach them how to communicate with scientists in a professional manner with the hope that some of those scientists may take our students on as interns. In terms of where our program started out, we began thinking about a research program and made a proposal to create one in January of 2013. And before we made that proposal, we visited different programs. I talked with many research teachers, one who is here today, and met with science chair people throughout Long Island to listen to what they were doing. Some people are very proprietary about what they do, and others are very open to let you come in and see what they're doing. I modeled our program after that in Plainview Old Bethpage because they have one of the strongest programs out there. And of course, if you're going to model a program, you want to pick one that is excellent. And they've had kids win incredible competitions because of the work that they're able to do. We introduced Science Research 1 in 2013-14. We added Science Research 2 last year. Science Research 3 came in line this year, and next year we'll be adding Science Research 4. So students can take this all 4 years that they're in high school, and they certainly can add it if they decide that they have an interest in it. You don't have to start in 9th grade. You're welcome to join in 10th grade if that's something that you've decided that you're interested in, because the kids mature and their interests change. What we have been doing in Science Research 1, the students learn basic laboratory skills. They try to find project ideas from different news articles, magazine articles, research articles that they find. Many kids in 9th grade are really not ready to read journal articles that are designed for scientists. So they start with a kernel that they find somewhere, and then they lead to the primary source documents. We teach them how to find credible sources for their research, and we also have them enter individual and group competitions such as DuPont, which is an essay competition for individual students, and Genes in Space, which is a competition the students enter to try to get a project to be on a space shuttle. In the second year, they focus on primary source documents. It's very difficult when you're first exposed to these documents to really understand a research article. They're using all kinds of terminology, they're describing research methodology that the students aren't familiar with, and really that takes a lot to decipher and work your way through. They spend time working with biotechnology techniques. They learn how to cut pieces of DNA apart, how to run it in a gel, examine the banding patterns. They also continue to work on projects. One of the things that they've been doing is a project called Barcode Long Island, which is a project through Cold Spring Harbor Laboratory. And what Cold Spring Harbor is doing is trying to identify and make a DNA fingerprint of all kinds of plant and insect species throughout Long Island. And our kids have been contributing to that database. They also can participate in the Toshiba Explorer Vision competition. And in Science Research 3, the students are continuing to work on individual projects because this is the year where they really have to focus on what it is that they're going to research. They try to research and find local scientists that can act as mentors, and they find them by looking at who's doing the research that they're, from the articles that they're looking at the reference list, going online to Stony Brook or Brookhaven Lab or any other research institution that they might be interested in, and seeing what those scientists are doing and reaching out to them. It doesn't mean you make one phone call and that person says, come on over. It sometimes takes hundreds of phone calls to find that researcher who's willing to open their lab to a student, because that's a tremendous time commitment on their part to bring somebody in who's a novice and teach them what they need to know. And we actually have a student this year who made a contact with someone at Stony Brook and will be doing that research over the summer. And that's the goal, to get them to do that kind of research over the summer so that they can enter into some of the more high-powered competitions. Some of the things that we'd like to do going forward are to create a symposium every year where students will present their work from 9th grade up to 12th grade, so we can see how things progress as they go along. Have them participate in the Long Island Science Congress. We'd like to create a summer program between the 9th and the 10th grade year where the students can focus for a week on biotechnology. Some of those experiments really need to run for hours and hours, so doing it in the space of 40 minutes is a difficult task, to say the least. We'd like to have some field trips to a research institution so students can really see what goes on in a research lab. What equipment do they use? There's a difference between what might be used at a facility like Stony Brook versus the kind of big equipment that they use out at Brookhaven Lab. We also want them to see the workflow that goes on. Every moment is a eureka moment. There's times when you are washing glassware because that's what it takes to move the lab along, and scientists have to, and their assistants do all those kind of work. We will help our students as they go through the process of finding mentors. We're going to start our Science Research 4 course next year, and what we really hope to be able to do is to create a full-time teaching position for our research teachers. And by doing that, creating that full-time position, the teacher can aid in the setup and guide students in the setup of experiments. And that's a complicated thing because it means acquiring the equipment that they might need. It means students are going to come up with, we hope, some novel experiments. So it's not going to be look in a lab manual and follow the directions. It's really helping the student come up with what is going to be a reasonable experimental design, and then undoubtedly changing it as it goes along because things rarely work the first time out. We hope to have the teacher act as a liaison to outside mentors, to arrange for field trips, and sometimes it's about taking individual students or small groups of students to collect samples. A couple of the kids were out at Fire Island with their teacher on Saturday collecting samples for the barcode program. And sometimes it's very hard for the kids to give up time on a weekend or to even give up time during the school day because the attendance policy and they don't want to miss their other classes, which is understandable. If you're taking AP classes, missing those classes means you've missed a lot of information. So we try to make that happen. And we also want our teacher to have the flexibility so that they can work with the students when the students are available. And real heavy-duty research isn't done in 42 minutes. There needs to be a lot more time involved, and if a teacher is teaching Regents and AP courses, those kids have to get equal time, and it's very difficult to make that happen and give all those kids the time they deserve. So what we'd like to do going forward in our first course, year 1, is to have all the students working on perfecting laboratory techniques, simple things as learning how to take data, to make measurements and make sure that they do so accurately. Look at the literature as a class. Look at an article together as a class and see what kind of research ideas are sparked. Again, looking at credible resources. We'd like them to enter at least one science competition to present what they've done in the symposium, be that as an actual presentation or a poster session, and arrange a field trip for them to a research lab so they can see what really goes on there. There's some very accommodating scientists that will allow that. In year 2, we are going to have our summer program between years 9 and 10. We're going to have our more advanced techniques, more computerized data collection, things of that nature. Kids are going to spend a lot of time learning about the biotechnology techniques that are necessary for the barcoding program. They're going to work on developing their own projects. Again, we want them to enter at least one competition and to present at the symposium. And that symposium presentation is going to come up in each of the 4 years. In the 3rd year, the students will really focus on techniques that apply to their particular experiment. Because when they decide what they're going to do, you may have several students doing completely different things and need to master techniques based on what they're doing. You know, one of our students now is learning to count things under the microscope, which is a more difficult task than it sounds, especially when the items are so very small. They're going to work individually or with a partner. They're going to look at what scientists locally are doing, again, hoping to spark ideas. We're going to have them enter the Science Congress and or the Google Science Fair. Some projects work in multiple competitions, others don't. It just depends on the nature of the competition. And again, they will prepare work for a symposium. The students that are really planning on the high-powered competitions have to expect to spend the summer between their junior and senior year working on research. Not doing that around other priorities, but that has to be their focus. And when you look at the kids that are winning the science talent search and things like that, those are the kind of commitments they're going to make, they're going to need to have to make. In year 4, the students will continue their research. They will do a statistical analysis of their findings to find out whether or not what they found is indeed significant. They will write a research paper. They will create a presentation, which they will present in the symposium, and then they will have an opportunity to go to the Science Congress, and if the research is high-level research, they can enter into the Science Talent Search or the Long Island Science and Engineering Fair. You notice we left the name Intel off because Intel pulled their sponsorship. So they're not sponsoring it anymore, and I don't know who will be, but the Science Talent Search isn't going away. Right now, we recruit students from, we used to recruit them only from the 8th grade Earth Science accelerated students, and then some of the students said, you know, my friends are in this, in the regular course, and they've got all these great ideas. So we expanded our recruitment first to the entire 8th grade, and now we're going to expand it into the 9th grade as well, so that we can have our own high school teachers also looking and picking kids and talking to them about research and see if we can increase the number of students that will have the opportunity for this experience. Another thing we think that we really need to do is to educate parents about the opportunities that this program has, as well as the commitments that are required of the children. And we're going to do that through an orientation that we'll be having sometime before the school year ends for our incoming 9th graders. And we will also be doing that at a curriculum meeting that we will be having for the 8th grade parents before the 8th graders are scheduled sometime in the late fall or early winter, when we can talk about the entire academic program so parents really get a sense of the kind of courses that we offer and the kind of sequences they might want for their child. The other thing we'd like to do is to offer an enrichment program to our middle school students, where we would have some programs from Brookhaven Lab come a couple of times a year and give the students an in-depth lab experience after school where they can really follow a lab all the way through, because at the middle school, unless you're in earth science, you really don't get the opportunity for double periods, and so we want the kids to see what that research could possibly be. Does anyone have any questions?
How many students are currently
I believe we have, I'm going to say about 45.
All three levels?
Yes,
Combined, 45?
I think so.
Question, did we,
45?
we have, about 53 courses.
Okay, so I know when the program started, originally there was about 30 kids that started. Those 30 kids, how many of them stayed in the program?
We have
The original 30, we have 12. Which really isn't surprising, because kids decide that this isn't for them. And that's okay, because we'd rather have them find that out now than when they're going to college and realizing that this is the wrong place for me.
So now that I saw the way that you're revamping the program, what are the chances of probably keeping the majority of those 30?
That's certainly our goal, is to keep the majority of them and to keep them interested and meet whatever needs they might have so that they will stay.
So I'm not clear on what the incoming 12th graders are going to be doing. I saw your plan, your revamp plan. What they were doing in the third year is not what those children are doing now. So how do those children now transition to what you're projecting?
Well, they're going to work on a project if they've already got one, or they're going to work on a very targeted project so that they will be able to produce, at the very least, a research paper, and I hope something that they can submit to Science Congress so that they get an experience of presenting their work.
So they're expected to do something over the summer?
They are, I think we only have one student at this point that is going to a research laboratory.
And my other question is, do we currently have the means, the equipment that will entice children to want to stay in this program?
We have a lot of equipment that we've gotten over the year, but we get equipment also based on the needs and the desires of the students based on the research they want to do. So when they tell us the projects and we start to delve into the projects, we will be able to acquire more so that they can get what they need and pursue their projects.
What is the cost of this program now, and what will be the cost to expand it? Have you done those projections?
We spend, I believe, about $15,000 total.
Per year?
Per year.
And then to expand it?
I don't really anticipate the cost going up.
The only additional cost would be the additional 0.6.
That's right, yes, staff, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Staff, the FTE.
I believe in the first year. Was it 13,000 in the first year that it started?
No, that
No,
was this year.
It's grown.
So that's what I'm saying. So, I mean, we have to keep that in mind. The program started with $0, and now we're starting to now get a little bit of funding.
We've been pretty consistent over the past 2 years with the amount of funding, both for supplies and equipment.
It's still in its infancy, so I think
Yes, that's a very good point, but it's a 3-year-old program, and any program has its growing pains, and every program has to be tailored to the school where it is. There is no cookie cutter method of just saying, you know, they did it this way in this district, and that's perfect, and we're going to completely replicate that.
I would like to see the children that are incoming 9th grade be able to sustain a lot of those children, that it's enticing enough that you can keep all 30.
you're surprised how smart kids can get.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Right?
I just want to go back to something you said before, the 30 to the 12 was kids we had, the kids that left programs? I just wanted
Kids
to-
that after 3 years left the program.
After 3 years, so starting at 30, after 3 years, we had 12. Okay, and then the other question I had is, if we add the full-time teacher, the additional 0.6, is there any thoughts of having that person, I don't know what their course load would be at that point, if the intention is to have a full course load. I'm kind of confused because you have 4 sections, right? You're going to have 4 sections in section? Okay, so 4 sections would lead you to, is it lab involved too?
Yeah, they have every other day they have their
So there's a lab involved, so that puts it at 6 or whatever. So the full-time person will be doing the 4 sections. We're having 4 sections, so we're not having 4 sections next year?
We are having 4 sections, but research does not meet for a double period every other day. It meets for 1 period a day.
So we want to increase it to a double period is the point.
1 period a day. I'm
So there
sorry?
is no lab, we want to increase it to a double period.
No, I don't,
So
that's,
I'm missing the purpose of adding the 0.6.
to be able, for the teacher to be able to work with the kids when they're available. So the kid wants to come in during their lunch period, student wants to come in at lunchtime, they can continue to work, for the teacher to set up, help them set up the labs, gather the equipment they need, go through the process of finding what it is they need and things like that. And for the teacher also, when you're dealing with many kids that want to do different projects, the teacher can't possibly know every single thing that the kids want to do. So they spend a lot of time learning about those things as well. When students are talking about different genetics projects, there's no way for the teacher to be completely fluent in every single thing the kids want to do. And as we branch out and they go past biology, which really is our teacher's forte, they want to do something in chemistry or physics, that's even more time that the teacher is spending to make sure they're as familiar with the topic as possible to properly guide the students.
Is there anything, just throwing things out there that I've heard and researched, is there any provisions in there for that teacher to be doing any kind of grant writing to try to offset some of the costs? Because other districts, science research teachers, I know do some grant writing. There's lots of grants out there that can offset some of that cost and the cost of equipment and things like that.
Kids do that already. I know for a fact
Not
that
the
kids do
kids, the
that.
teacher.
Yeah, I know the kids do that.
Not the kids, the teacher.
Oh, the teacher himself? I know that the students in ninth grade wrote
I'm
grants.
saying, would that be
But
part of
his
the time
assistants,
that
yes.
we're increasing the,
Not only is going to be student contact.
right, that's what
So
I'm
some of
trying to
it
figure
would
out.
be- Some of it
the
would be time
explanation of-
to make contact with other labs, to universities, make contact with granting organizations and apply for grants. Absolutely. It wouldn't all be student contact time.
And this is for biology only, not
No,
chem and not?
no.
Okay.
No, it's for whatever the students are interested in, but that's why it's important for the teacher to have more time, because the teacher can't be an expert in every discipline, and they need to be able to familiarize themselves with what the students want to
But
work
it's
on.
been typically biology only, or you want to expand it into others?
It's been typically more biology than anything, because the students are naturally attracted to that in many cases, and there's a lot of things they can do because some of the research institutions like Cold Spring Harbor have reached out to schools to get them involved.
And ninth graders take living environment, so they're
Right, that's
naturally,
right,
they're
too.
learning about biology while they're taking their first research class.
Correct?
You can say with the hard sciences, or you can include social sciences also?
Absolutely.
Social science also?
Yes, I would love to, as we go on, expand it to social science, expand it to math. There's a lot of growth potential.
Does the seniors have the opportunity to actually work in a lab this coming year?
It really would depend on whether or not they find someone that will let them work in the lab. It's not a simple process, because I was talking to some neuroscientists the other day. They won't let you in their lab unless you're 18. So there are a lot of restrictions. You can't work with vertebrate animals, things like that. So certainly, we're always open to the possibility of getting kids in wherever someone finds them. But when you're a small program and you're new, many of these researchers are used to, okay, I know if I go take a kid from another school, I know what that school is used to sending me. I know that I'm going to have a smooth transition. So that's one of the great things about having a kid get in right now, because that scientist will now know, we've sent you this wonderful student, they'd be more open to taking another Connetquot kid hopefully next year.
So with the teacher being full-time, this will also help the
Yes.
students have that opportunity.
Absolutely.
To make those contacts. And I don't think a child's going to know how to make those contacts.
Well, that's part of the process of teaching them how to do that, because the students have to be the ones reaching out. The teachers have to help them do that, compose a professional email and so forth, because the scientist wants to see that the student is committed and the student is interested in this. It's not the case where, someone else is going to set this up for you, because then the researcher doesn't have any sense of whether you have the commitment that it's going to take to show up there every day. And let's face it, sometimes you're going to be doing some grunt work in the laboratory because that's what the lab needs to move on, and you have to do that with a smile on your face and get ready to do what's next.
The person, I'm still confused about the person in the area. The person who's now currently teaching, they're obviously a full-time teacher.
Correct.
But their workload is split between research and something else. So how much of their workload is in research right now?
Right now, they are teaching Research 1 and 2, and then right now, Research 3 has been more independent study, and they also teach AP Bio and a living environment class. We found that independent study didn't work well for us, so we are going back to traditional meeting times for Research 3 and 4. So they will have designated contact time with those
Just
students.
teaching 1 and 2. Okay, trying to figure out that. Didn't make sense with adding .6 if there was already 3 existing classes.
Now,
That's
this
what's
year,
So
children are
3
currently
is, they're kind of on their own.
Right, I mean, they check in, but as you can imagine with students, they have varying priorities, and when they have a choice between their AP course and research, of course we know they're going to pick the AP course, and we can't blame them.
So there'll be 4 sections, obviously. That'll be the workload, and then the additional, are there going to be lab periods, or are they going to kind of be floating periods where the kids will be able to
Floating,
check in?
that's
So
right.
how is that going to work with the teacher and their responsibilities? Are there certain periods, or they're not going to be available 9 periods of the day?
Well, they're going to work it out with the kids, and, you know, you may be 7 period one day and 6 period another day. They'll work it out with the kids. The kids are very good at finding time when they're available and making the teacher aware of it. So that's why we need the flexibility, because the kids may have a test in one thing one day and not want to do it, have that period available, but the next day they do, and as long as the teacher doesn't have a class that period, and frankly, I'm sure with research, this research 4 student wants to come into research 3, they're going to welcome them in and let them do what they need to do. But we need them to be able to have that flexibility.
I've been doing a little research, and I don't think there's any other district, as far as what I saw, that has only a part-time teacher dedicated to this. I see Sable as a full-time teacher. I see one of the districts have a full-time teacher, so.
Yeah, many of them may have started that way, but they went to a full-time teacher because they really needed them to be able to have, the students needed to have access to the teacher. And in many cases, a research room is a great place for the kids to hang out and have that camaraderie with other like-minded kids, and have those discussions that moves their project along because they're talking to somebody and they get an idea spark, and that's a great way to have that happen. And when they're getting ready to present, you want them to present to their classmates because their classmates didn't do that research, and they need to be able to know that they're making their project clear to somebody who really isn't an expert in that topic.
I know the benefit of having a full-time teacher. My son's program didn't align with his teacher, so it was very hard for them to meet up. So.
It is, absolutely.
So
And
that
the kids,
flexibility
so-
with the children, yeah, make it easy.
I agree. Questions?
Thank you, Mary.
I'm sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Wilson. Next up is a presentation by Christina Poppy, Art Director of English Language Arts for Connetquot. Her presentation focuses around some changes in the federal government and the requirements with regards to students completing their FAFSA field. And I'll let her finish that stuff on the entire presentation. So, Christina Poppy.
Good evening, everybody. How are you?
Good, how are you?
It's wonderful to see everybody this evening. I am here to speak with you on sort of the forefront of a bit of a change to the landscape of our senior year experience in 2016-2017. And part of this does have to do with what Mr. Middleman mentioned, the change in the FAFSA opening for filing for federal financial student aid. In the past, that deadline, or that opening date, I should say, was January 1st. Next year, the opening is going to happen on October 1st. Our guidance department at the high school has kind of foreseen this changing that landscape of our seniors' experience, particularly in their English classrooms. And the way that that's sort of connected is through their encouragement of current juniors, our incoming senior class, to complete their college applications for that October 1st deadline. At this point in time, it's strictly encouragement, but in terms of what happens in our English classrooms at the start of student senior year, that certainly presents a significant change. Our current practice, our past practice, as I mentioned in this slide, during marking period 1, students enter into their English 12H classes by being reintroduced to personal narrative writing. It's writing about themselves, something that they probably haven't done in a formal sense since they were in middle school. When students enter 9th grade, they move into 10th grade, they're preparing for their Regents exam in 11th grade. Suddenly they find themselves consistently writing about texts, and that kind of corroborates what Dr. Losing was saying about the research program. During those initial stages, students are learning to examine texts very closely and draw their own conclusions. And so we move away from the self, the me, the I in writing, and we focus students' attention on what can this text tell me? What inferences can I make? What conclusions can I draw about the information that's before me? And how do I articulate that in writing? That forms the basis of students' writing experiences in high school, grades 9 through 11. What the college essay requires is a complete reversal, and we pull kids back into themselves. And what that essay is doing is serving as sort of a way to make their resumes come to life for a college admissions council. So essentially, students are selecting a poignant moment in their lives, a significant event, their perspective on a particular issue, and expressing it, including the my and the me and the my. And excluding, well, the text says, and this quote says, and that person said. That reversal of thought takes some time. It's not undoing what we've done in high school, but it's sort of contributing to reverting students back inside their own heads. And our teachers take our students through all of the stages of the writing process. So they start in immersion, and they start looking at mentor texts in terms of saying, this is what students produce. This is a great example of a college essay. This is a solid example of a student expressing who they are for a committee of strangers to gain entrance into a particular institution. They go through the additional stages of the writing process, ending in revision, editing, and finally publishing. And typically, that process lasts anywhere between 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks. So we're talking a majority of the first working period. With the changes to that sort of external opening, I don't want to say deadline, it's an external opening of the FAFSA financial aid offerings. That puts a significant time crunch on a process that really needs its due process. So for example, next year we're looking at an opening of school during September 7th. And for that October 1st opening of the opportunities to submit their applications, we're truncating that process to 3 weeks. Our goal is to have students in a position, I'm moving backwards now. Our goal is to have students in a position where they're able to receive as much teacher support as they possibly can during those 3 weeks, and be in a position, be poised to submit their entire application, including that FAFSA document, on October 1st. The English teachers at the high school, I witnessed it this year, are incredibly giving of all of their free time during that first marking period. As those 10 weeks rev up, I find them meeting with students, conferencing with students in hallways on their hall duty periods, during their free periods, after school. They're squeezing in appointments with students to, again, give that writing its due process whenever they can. And those essays may not take the form of a single document. Most college applications these days require an extended response beyond that blanket essay. So even with the extension into those sort of nooks and crannies of their schedule, we're looking at that time crunch. And believe me, the teachers really want to support their students. We're not also only talking about 12th grade teachers. Students go back to the teachers with whom they're most familiar, with whom they spent plenty of time as freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. That's a natural extension. So they bring back these personal extensions to people with whom they're comfortable, and they're seeking advice and feedback. So it's a department-wide effort at this point.
Is it starting in the middle school also? Is it
happening in the middle school?
The writing process, I'm happy to say, and I'm able to say this at this point, for the last 2 years, we've been working with Sarah Cordova in the middle school, in both middle schools, at the middle school level. She is our literacy consultant. Next year, she'll be moving her efforts into 8th grade. And what she has emphasized with our teachers is the development of our own writing units of study that emphasize the writing process, all of the stages of writing. Like I said before, from immersion through editing, revision, and publishing. She embraces that sort of extended process writing piece, which again is what's being sort of re-energized here in 12th grade. And so we're having that progression of that type of curricular shift into 8th grade next year. Also building in the pieces of writing style that students need to produce on a daily basis in all of their subject areas, including English, those prompt pieces. Write for 40 minutes, show me what you know. Give me a quick write based upon your understanding of what you just read. Draw some inferences and put it down on paper. So it's about a combination, and that's the work that she's been doing in both of our middle schools. Combining the process piece, so the broader understanding of how to compose and what the steps are, and how they're ingrained into a process of what it means to be an author and a writer. And I can say that I have been in 6th and 7th grade classrooms all year long, and students are owning that identity as authors. And that's really the most beautiful thing that you could ask for. So as students move into 8th grade, they're going to continue to hold on to that identity. I'm a writer. I can do this because I know the steps that are involved. And I know that it takes time, and I know it's a lot of work, but I can do this. That confidence is the beginning.
Well, that's happening. That's a big plus for Connetquot and any district, because that's always been a topic of discussion. How to make our kids writers.
In truth, learning that process, I think, has lifted the level of instruction for the teachers as well. So many of them have reported to me as a result of their work with Sarah, I have never touched writing this way. And so it's been transformative in many different scenarios. She has been into every 6th grade classroom within the district this year, supporting the work that the teachers wrote, and that's the biggest piece. It comes from within. It comes based upon what our students' needs are, what the trends are, how they've sort of recognized things over the years. So it's an awesome, awesome sort of transformation that's happening. To get back into the high school, to come back into, what's on the forefront of next year. And I should say that that process and that exposure and those pieces of planning are happening. We're articulating into 9th grade as well next year to kind of sort of bridge that gap between OBMS and RMS and CHS, so that we're able to see, what do kids need as 9th graders? How does their writing look? How does it feel? What do you expect? What do you need for students to be able to do at the end of their freshman year, the end of their sophomore year, the end of their junior year in preparation for that Regents exam? And so this is a little bit different because the Regents exam requires self-to-text writing. It's about the informational pieces, and it's about the argumentative pieces. It's not about me. So again, in preparation for that, and in preparation for the truncation of the time period, when students will be able to meet with their teachers, chat with their teachers, really, have a firm grasp on, I have a strong document that I could submit on October 1 if I choose to for my college application. We're proposing a 12th grade summer college essay workshop. Shooting for the stars here, we're proposing a 5 days worth of sessions, 3 hours per session, where students will receive targeted instruction. What does it mean to go through the steps of the writing process? What should a college essay look like? These are all things that happen during marking period 1. But again, the focus has to shift. The shift has to happen in order for students to be ready for October 1. So in September, our vision for 12th grade teachers, when I sat down and I spoke with them, they said, well, we'll really be able to focus on revision and editing and the publication of a final piece of work. We can't become immersed in the other steps and expect that we're going to have something super solid at the end. And so we're proposing that that piece of it take place during this workshop.
You mean incoming 12th grade students, right?
These are incoming 12th grade
Right,
students.
so they're 11th grade.
Current juniors. So in their junior conferences with their guidance counselors, students have been made aware of this sort of change that's happening according to dates. And they've also been made aware that it would probably be in their best interest to at least have a draft, to walk in as seniors with something in hand that they could present to their teacher. They're issued by their guidance counselors the questions for writing for the common application, the prompts for writing for the common application. So at least they have a basis, something to write about. They're walking out with that in hand as juniors. The 11th grade teachers, recognize that part of this could seem as if it's really incumbent upon them to start the process in their 11th grade classrooms. The rub is that our Regents exam has shifted from January to June. And as you probably know, this year is the first iteration for our junior class of the Common Core Regents exam. That exam that requires just our argumentative writing styles and our information, our analysis writing styles. It's not about me. So those teachers have expressed sincere concern that if they were to introduce the narrative pieces, it would be confusing to students. And when they sit down to write that exam, they're going to experience that sort of internal confusion as they craft something that is, very definitive.
So is this ongoing? Will this always be ongoing?
That's a great question. And that's something that we've sort of bantered about. Ideally, it would be enculturated. Like you are walking into your 12th grade classroom with a draft in hand. But what happens over the summer? When do those drafts actually happen? That's a tough scenario to face, right? Because we can't guarantee or we can't support every student in their homes to say, Johnny and Mary and Susie are definitely going to come into class on the first day of school ready with something in hand. Sometimes there needs to be more clarification. Sometimes we have students who aren't confident writers, and so a draft to them may look nothing more than a list of bullet points.
So the kids that are currently in 11th grade,
Yes.
at the end of this school session, would it be wise to say to them, do your draft, because we're going to have classes, say, potentially in August, so that at least they come in with you
That's
with
the hope.
something and not just nothing. And the AP students, would they be instructed as well too? Because I know they're not, they're different.
This would be open to every incoming 12th grade student, regardless of their leveling. And we know that most of the time our AP students are a little more motivated, so they may be those students who are walking in the door to a session like this, or on September 7th to their AP English teacher saying, I finished something over the summer, can you have a look? I've already published it, can you just let me know what you think? I've already had 10 people read this, I think I'm ready. So you have all those varying levels, but this would not be exclusive of any student in terms of what those levels are. The instructional piece is always good to hear, and check. Does my be reflective, does my piece meet those requirements? Is that really what a college essay should be, what I produced?
Now, I read the scholarship essays, are they similar to the college essays?
Yes.
So what I found in the last couple of years of reading the scholarships is that some children just have a flair for writing, and it's like you opening it up and you're reading a book about their life, and it's so engaging, and you're like, it's like a page turner, but unfortunately it's only a page and a half or two. But then you have other children that they do share some stories that are a little bit tragic in their life. But they don't, I'm not saying they should tell it like a story, but they're not using the right words to tell their story. It's like, my grandma got sick. They're not using, I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right.
it's not as engaging perhaps as it could
Absolutely
be.
not as engaging. So they may have a great story to tell, but they're focusing on their sad story as being the be-all of their story, and I'm finding that it shouldn't be the be-all of their story. It should be them with their own creative words and their creative thoughts about themselves. And of course, introduce those things as well, but you find some children that don't have any tragedies in life, and it's like, again, it's what the content, how they wrote it, it's just...
It's the packaging. Truly, when I was teaching, one of the best college essays that I ever read was about a student's first time getting up on a surfboard. That was it, that one tiny moment. And the way it was packaged and the way it was presented was so engaging. You wanted to read more. They gave you just enough. And truly, you could see them through their writing. And the writing was exemplary. You know, and some students do have that now. Other students do need to work at it, and that's part of the work that's happening right now in the middle schools. And it's not a guarantee that every kid is going to be this incredible writer, this incredible author. But again, the enemy is that they own it as authors. This is my authentic work.
What's about the gift? Sometimes I think it's just a gift.
In some instances, it is a gift. In other instances, if a student truly works at it and works at it and works at it, they're going to produce something that is all of the things that we mentioned. They may not be able to do that on the spot, though. In a 40-minute class period, write an essay for me. It's not going to look like that piece that they drafted, revised, published, drafted, revised, you know. They went through those process steps with, you know, over a time frame of 2 or 3 weeks for just those end steps of the writing process. So, you know, there are differences there. But again, in some instances, yes, students do have that gift, but it does not mean and it does not exclude other students who may not be as gifted from producing something that's
Another thing that I
wonderfully
noticed
strong.
that I would like to see more of when I won't be really mentioning myself be a senior, but their opening and closing, it's you know, you can have a powerful opening, and that's what keeps you engaged. And I find that a lot of children don't have that powerful opening, that powerful closing. It's like something they can work on, because that's what helps you keep you. I mean, I read like over 500 scholarships, and so if they don't grab me by the first, third sentence, I'm like, oh, I gotta read it thoroughly.
It's not there. That one little sort of twinge that makes you, you know, stay interested. The focal points of their work can be whatever it is they need. And I have found in my experience that students sometimes start an essay thinking this is a great introductory paragraph. By the time they get to the conclusion, they've written something completely different from what they set out to do, and they haven't gone back and they haven't attended to that revision piece, and they haven't had somebody else take a look at it and get out of their own heads and step away from it. So that does happen. If a teacher were able to sit with them and conference with them and say, you know, look at what's happening here, or a peer was able to say, look at what's happening here, it doesn't connect, that could be part of the workshopping piece that would be encapsulated within that workshop. So it would be sort of an instructional portion and then an opportunity for teachers to get hands-on with students' work and to have those conferences that are so valuable. And those are the ones that we're talking about, tucking into the corners of their day during the first marking period in the class.
One question, is this being promoted also with the guidance counselors and the 11th grade teachers?
I've spoken with the guidance department, and they brought the FAFSA piece to me. And they said, this is going to create an issue. It's going to have a ripple in your 12th grade English classrooms, and they're absolutely correct. I've spoken with the 12th grade English teachers. I've spoken with the department as a whole.
So prior to us rolling this out and really going through, we're looking for board support, and obviously from that we would work with the CTA to facilitate some sort of salary schedule.
Christina, how many kids do you think you'll serve in the 5 sessions? Will there be a cap to the amount of the maximum in each session?
That's a great question, and I think that students would have to, it would necessitate some registration on the student's part to see how many students we can anticipate, because certainly if the teacher were sitting in a room with 60 students, there's no way that they're going to be able to give that type of personal attention. So require some registration aspects, and then we would have to negotiate it from there.
So it ought to be sent out in mid-June?
It can.
Our first goal is to obviously communicate to kids, because kids at this is really important.
Right.
The next
I
piece
don't,
is,
I mean, as most parents, this is not even an option. I mean,
well,
it's really, when you really think about it, it's not an option. They don't have January anymore.
But-
It's October.
but
They don't have market
the
period one.
communication
Yeah.
piece is probably the most critical,
Right.
and I won't say anything else.
No, that's okay.
Ideally, how many kids are you looking to, I have two questions.
There's
One,
500 kids.
is it one session for each kid, or is the kid attending all 5 sessions? Are there 5 separate sessions for different children?
Our mental model, and it's could be variable, but our mental model was some instructional pieces at the beginning, so it would be a similar session every time, and a workshopping portion. So it would have to be highly structured. The teachers would have to write the curricula for those pieces.
So if I'm a student, I'm going to attend all 5 days?
Well,
Or
maybe
attend-
you would attend one day, maybe you would attend 2 days to continue with the support. Maybe you would have some recommendations to go home and make some revisions, and you would attend the second day to go ahead and say, okay, this is what I did, where am I now? Maybe you would register for all 5 days because your schedule would allow that, and you would sit and absorb and take on some of those ancillary writing pieces that you have to complete for your additional college application.
So ideally, what do you see as a student-teacher ratio?
It's a great question. I would say a regular classroom size would probably be the maximum that you want to see, 1 to 20, 1 to 23, something of that nature. This way, the instructional portion can happen. Look, there's going to have to be a component of that day where a teacher has the students being self-directed and self-guided, and that goes into the curriculum writing piece, because there's no way that one person can be there for, all 20, let's say, for instance, students in a classroom setting. So that would, occur through some really careful writing and some creative writing on the part of the teachers who would, be working within this workshop.
So then, in other words, the kids have to make a commitment. So if I find out, oh, July 30th, there's a workshop, and maybe I'll go to it. You have to already been committed to it.
The commitment is important. The commitment is important. And so the communication has to happen beforehand. And absolutely, the 11th grade English classes could be a wonderful springboard to start that communication piece. A formal letter, we talked about having notifications on the high school's webpage and on the English department's webpage. And we also talked about potentially having a robocall sort of reminder go out once we hit that registration period.
Mississippi could send out a,
That would be wonderful as well. That's a great idea.
I think it should be stressed the importance of parents taking advantage of this, because again, we lose that time.
That's one of the most beautiful things about, the beginning of senior year for students in 12R, especially in 12H classes. Students finish that first marking period and they have something that's ready to be submitted. They have a document that they can proudly submit as a representation of who they are. And that happens in class. With that, and I have to mention these final little pieces here, the English teachers, brought to my attention, well, we're focusing then on the first 3 weeks of the school year, the first 4 weeks of the school year, on those stages of the writing process. So now we're working with approximately 6 weeks to the end of the first marking period, and those are not necessarily uncharted waters, but our curricula in 12 honors and 12 regions has to change. It's a forced change because of that time frame. So we're proposing a revision, an allowance for the revision of existing curricula for the 12R and for the 12 honors courses as a result of that change in curriculum as well, as sort of a residual effect. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Are you also, as part of the English curriculum, teaching them how to take the college verbal interview?
Right now, I have 12th grade teachers who are conducting interviews in class. And this is more of a career focus. So it's, as it is during the second semester at this point of the student's senior year. But they are focusing on those practical skills, including the interview pieces for career positions, for college applications, for college campus jobs that may crop up in the next couple of years. They're focusing on study skills, how to work within study groups effectively, how to manage their time. They're incorporating very proudly those pieces of the equation into their regular instruction in order to prepare students to not only write appropriately for their post-high school experience, but also present themselves in a manner that is both professional and indicative of their training here in their post-high school experiences.
That may be the make or break.
It certainly may be the make or break contingency piece there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our discussion list is recognition of community members. That was Ms. Kennedy.
I think what you're doing, Mrs. Adams, is great in terms of the coalition. Very nice this evening. There are other people, we didn't discuss this, but there are other, unsung heroes in Connetquot, the Andersons of 7-Eleven, who've been giving to the community for over 20 years. The Remmers of Snapper Inn, who was part of the Connetquot Friends of Connetquot, who's been quietly doing something. We have many, community members, and many people that none of us know about. I know we have Idle Hour Beautification. The teachers, retired teachers that are giving back, been doing it for over 20 years. I'm just giving you a quick list of some people off the top of my head. In doing this, maybe you should reach out to the community. I can't imagine who around Connetquot and who in Bohemia, business owners and or just community members that give back. That could be a viable part of the coalition.
The intention was to put a nomination form onto our new website to have people nominate our community of excellence. This kind of sounds like unsung heroes, volunteers, and people
The
giving back.
Andersons aren't volunteer, they're business owners that have been giving to the community in one form or another in terms of their coffee there. But they're there. They've been there for the community for over 20 years. And the Snapper Inn, well, you don't really know about Mr. Remmer, what he gives back, but he does give back to the community. You wouldn't know that. I know that. He doesn't give it to the district, but he gives it to the community.
Okay, perfect. That would be something that would be wonderful in the nomination.
Yeah, because I'm sure there are many others throughout Connetquot. So just bring that to your attention.
Perfect, thank you.
We have curriculum and instruction.
I brought that in also. I've been speaking to some teachers in other districts. Comac, I know you've been there. Some teachers are pretty critical of Connetquot, which makes me sad, but we are moving slowly, and thank you to this administration that we are moving. Comac got rid of the they started doing curriculum writing, changing the modules. Then they got rid of the modules, and they're writing all their own curriculum. So basically, what I'm saying is, maybe it's time, or I can use Mrs. Losing's word, let's find a district that we can model after, send our teachers there with administration, look carefully, and write the best curriculum we can write. It doesn't have to be a module. I think it would make the community happy, but it doesn't seem like the modules are working. So if you could look into other districts, find the right districts. I looked at what Marlon said in terms of the regions with SATs. We're right in the middle. I looked at all the ISM schools. They're basically in the middle, and I believe we can, really have Port Jefferson, whatever they're doing. They're a Suffolk County school and not a rich area, but they're already at the top. Now they're in the top, I think, 15. I think we can grow there, but I really think we have to look to see what works and make sure our teachers are involved in making it work and going to the school, to the schools of choice. That's a premier school that we want to emulate. So if we have to invest more money in that, I believe that's where we should be investing our money in our teachers and in writing curriculum. The best curriculum we can possibly find in Suffolk County or Nassau County. Preferably Nassau County.
Do you have any input on this, Steve? Well, Steve, can you touch on a little bit of what?
Well, modules aren't working. You all know that.
So we're discussing the modules?
No, not just the modules. Module is what we're doing in essence. But can the module be written by the district in terms of looking at other districts that are successfully having written the module into their own language and teaching Common Core?
So, just, in reference to that, the state has put out 2 separate module packages, one for ELA and one for mathematics. The ELA modules don't fit in a traditional elementary classroom. We do use parts of them throughout the K-6 program, but not as our primary resource for the ELA modules. The math modules are different things, something that I've mentioned in previous discussions and presentations. We have elected to use it as a primary resource. I do appreciate the feedback from the CTA. We're reaching out to them based upon the survey that they did of their teachers to be able to disaggregate data a little bit more. But we are in the process of looking at what other places are doing. We have worked with COMAC. We did a site visit with COMAC to Jericho schools to see the programs that they're doing. We've been in contact with Half Hollow Hills, Bayshore, COMAC, and Lakeport Blue Point as far as some districts making transitions from one resource to another. So we have started that process from the administrative level. We will be presenting a plan for next year as we move forward for specifically mathematics and what that will include. Modeling it similarly to what we did with our literacy team this year. Again, it's really important for us to understand the work that our teachers have done, and they have done tremendous work within their classrooms over the past number of years. From a historical perspective, the modules were here as a tool in a teacher's toolbox prior to both Mrs. Adams and my arrival.
They weren't looked at though.
They were done in a variety of different ways. There was an interim assistant superintendent who did put a plan in place of using it as a primary resource for K2. That was the beginning of my first year here, and instead of coming in and changing something that I don't totally understand as far as the what is being done in Connetquot, it's important to understand the history and honor the history and look to move forward that way. So we did a full year of study. We did a tremendous amount of work over the summer, revising and listening and creating those feedback loops. We did work with our CTA leadership as well as many of our teachers throughout the district to provide feedback. We made improvements. We made the recommended changes, and we're going to
continue to do that, but it's at a point now where I'm proud to say that our teachers, the elementary teachers, their capacity to not only be able to teach mathematics, but also to be able to evaluate resources is at such a high level. And this is an opportune time for us to open it up to see what other resources are available to our teachers, whether it's a combination of modules and another paid or purchase resource. That's something that we will discuss, openly. It's really important that the practitioners in the classrooms are the ones that are driving the conversation, and they're the ones that we're, making sure that we're creating those opportunities for those feedback loops to exist.
Now, is there going to be a lot of curriculum writing over the summer?
We do have curriculum writing in a variety of different areas. We're in the process right now of going through that. But as we move forward, no matter what program, what resource we adopt, look at, decide to pilot, work is going to be needed to be done, because nothing is written specifically for New York. When the Common Core standards were put into place, New York was given a provision that they can add standards, which they did, and it's something that is going to take a tremendous work from our administrators and our teachers to make sure that the sequences are correct, make sure that the order is correct, and that's the process that we'll go through next year.
Someone said that like so ditto is going out. Is that part of it?
The modules are units of study, and we have used those units of study as the primary resource for this past year, and with the teachers being able to supplement from other resources that the district has purchased, as well as resources that they found on their own. So we've used a collection of different things, but again, going back to the professional development that we've done, the first year I was here, it was a strictly pull-out purpose, where we were building the capacity of our teachers, and they've done an amazing job. This year, the focus was less pull-outs, almost no pull-outs for our math teachers, but embedded instruction, and embedded instruction in a really, really unique way that I don't think any other district's doing. And the way we did it is that teachers on a grade level at a specific building will be meet individually with the staff developer. Because each building has its own culture, each grade level has its own culture, and it's really important to honor that and to be able to create those environments where we have small groups of teachers working together, and they feel free enough to talk about what's happening within their classroom. So that staff development has been going incredibly well, very well received by our instructional staff. I'll forward you feedback from, we take feedback sheets from each of those experiences, and I'll forward those to the board for their review. But
And the feedback is from the teachers? Feedback is from the teachers?
Yes.
Oh, I'd like to see that.
So we're very happy with that. It reduced the amount of pullouts for our teachers, and it provided that kind of, embedded, on-task, specific type of staff development that we need.
And I like the scores in the regions. Apparently, there wasn't much of a change if you didn't take the test or took the test. Do you think that will continue? You're not seeing a difference if kids haven't taken the test for X amount of years?
No, I think because our teachers are doing an amazing job in the classroom, making sure that the instruction is there and making sure that students are reaching those grade level expectations.
That was interesting to see.
With all due respect, Dean, and please don't take any of this personally because I understand you have a job to do, but how long is this process going to take? I know I've spoken about the modules all year long, and first it was a process of, let's see what's going on, we have discipline, the director, this, that, everything. Again, we're going to put together a plan, and we're going to try to have it maybe use some of the modules. The parents have spoken in the fact that they have 76% of them opted out of the test, which part of that, a big part of that, is the modules and the test taking. And now the teachers have spoken with a survey that says 80% of them don't want to use it as a primary resource in their classroom. At what point are we just going to step up and scrap this and move on and come up with a better plan? Do we need to take a vote to force the issue, to come up with a better plan for you to put together something that includes other resources or a book? I mean, I brought the modules with me tonight because I don't know if everybody's seen them. This is what they look like. They're bland, they're dull, they have mistakes in them. This is the book I use. It's not perfect, but it engages the children. It has resources for the teachers to use what they want. They can pick and choose. And I know, again, I don't want to, this isn't about you. This is about something that I believe in. This is about the children's instruction. This is about so much more than, I understand things take time, but the more time we keep doing this, the less chance we have to put something new in place for September. We are running out of time. I'm ready to take a vote right now to say, can you please put together a plan for something including, and if you need to go speak to the teachers in that period of time before we come back here again and meet with the CTA, whatever you need to do, to come back with a plan that doesn't include the modules as the primary resource, that includes something else with some sort of resource for a kid to put in their hand that can help the kids, help the parents engage, have some sort of online resource where parents and kids can go to when they're home, that teachers can use in the computer labs. I know that there are many things out there, this one in particular that I happen to, and I'm not supporting this one, it's not the best thing out there, I understand that. It just happens to be what I use, but it has a tremendous component that the special ed department in my school district uses to spiral the kids backwards, you know, and pick up where they're deficient in their skills, and the lower kids in my, level kids in my classroom do the same thing with it. There's just so much out there that brings so much more to the table. I just can't sit here anymore and allow these modules to be just this topic of conversation that to me is just, and I understand they were here before you, and again, to me, this isn't about you. You're doing your job, I get it. You're trying to communicate with everybody and bring everybody together on a cohesive piece. I understand that, and I appreciate that. And I think it's a testament to your teachers that all the professional development that you guys have done has increased their ability to teach math. Not these modules. These modules have done nothing to increase their ability to teach math. It has been your input, their input, and all the professional development that goes along with learning how to teach the Common Core, as we have to use now, and all the things that go along with the modules. Not this. This hasn't helped the teacher. And if it has, I don't know what to tell you. But I've been doing this 17 years. I've been an elementary school teacher. This is garbage. And I'll sit here and say it, I've said it before, and I'm really tired of saying it. I don't know what to do at this point other than to ask for, I don't know if I can ask for a motion to take a vote to come up with a plan to move forward in a different direction without using the modules. I don't know how that works, but I'd like for administration to put together a plan that doesn't include using the modules.
Just as a caveat.
You cannot introduce a.
So we can't do it at this meeting.
But you can bring it forth to administration for the next meeting, but you're not supposed to be introducing.
So we have to wait 2 more weeks.
I'd like for Dean to respond to this.
Sure, Dean can respond. I'd love to hear what he has to say.
You know, Dean, you and I.
It's not about Dean.
I know.
I don't want this to be about Dean. This is not about
He should
Dean.
be able to respond to what you're to say.
You know, Dean, you and I had a positive conversation about this, and it wasn't focused on the modules. It was focused on different things. So can you please share that conversation?
There's tons of things.
You know, there's a couple of things I appreciate Mr. Ferrioli's responses and his passion for the resources. And I don't disagree in many of the things that he says regarding some of the deficiencies within the modules. You know, the parent piece is really lacking. It's something that we have talked about collectively. It's something that as we move forward, we will definitely look for a resource that's going to better support our parents. We've looked at a variety of different programs. We could very easily tomorrow purchase a program and move forward with that program next year and use that as our primary resource, while still being able to have the modules available to our teachers to use. That's something that is definitely possible to happen. My ultimate concern is, you know, it's a commitment versus compliance. You know, our goal here is that, you know, that we have opportunities to honor their voice, we have opportunities to bring teachers together, we have opportunities to review a variety of different resources to see what best meets the needs of our students and our parents and our community. And I don't think the time frame with this, you know, I don't think shortening the time frame allows for that really rich dialogue to exist and to us to make a really thoughtful decision about what's best for our students.
So,
That being said, We are, whatever the board so chooses is the direction that we'll move in. But
Well, I understand that you're
I'd like to
doing,
hear what the teachers have to say. You're saying the teachers are enjoying this, you're saying the teachers are not enjoying this.
no, I think we have a couple of different conflicting things. I was talking about the professional development piece, and that's the experience teachers are really enjoying. We have heard, mixed feedback regarding the modules, and that was evidenced in some of the work that the CTA put together for us. And that's something that we've continued to hear, and that's something that we have consistently tried to address to make better, and we have made some progress in that. And I understand Mr. Ferrioli's concern about, moving forward with something different as a primary resource, and that is a plan that we have going forward, that our teachers are at a place where they can make really meaningful suggestions and really evaluate resources for our kids. I'm not debating that part of it. I'm not debating that there are better things out there that are going to meet our needs better. My only concern, and however you choose to move forward or elect or vote to move forward is fine with me. I just want to make sure that we provide the opportunity for our teachers to sit down, look at the variety of different resources that are available to them, and select what's best for our kids.
When would that happen?
Our plan is that would start in September.
So we would be using the modules for another how long a period of time?
We would be piloting probably in the fall of next year, different resources to evaluate them. If that's not a plan, if we don't want to move forward in that direction, and it's decided that we move in a much quicker direction, and we just select a program or resources and give that out, we can make that adjustment as well.
Can you do, I really like the teachers that takes ownership in this personally. Rather than, I don't like dictating, but I think the teachers should take ownership with you, and I think that whatever they choose, they would use and be happy with rather than being dictated to. And then it used to be dictated to in this district, now they have a voice. I don't want them to lose their voice, so is there anything that you can do to expedite this by any chance? Over the summer maybe?
Yep, I will be with Mr. Tessio and Ms. Rizzo, and we will rework our timeline, and I will have it ready for you hopefully by the end of this week.
so Dean, the conversation you and I had earlier was in regard to some form of teacher college. We're not going to get teacher college, but we're going to get some form of teacher college that complements that program. How is that used with the modules? Would that overtake the modules and you would follow that program and exclude the modules? Or is the modules used as a timeline mainly, but the actual program that you're looking at is the main focus?
So the ELA modules are used throughout our district and sporadically. Mostly what teachers do is they take items that they feel are appropriate for their grade levels, and that's what they use. The ELA modules are not meant, they're not designed as the math modules are. They are very long, in-depth units that don't give students an opportunity to look at a variety of different texts. So we don't use the ELA modules as a primary resource in the elementary schools. And the work of the literacy team this year is moving in a workshop model, centered around the philosophy of a writers and readers workshop.
So I understand that they're doing this at Sycamore, and they seem to be very pleased.
We have a variety, we have pilots going on in many different buildings.
So have you joined together these different pilots and got the
So we
teachers
had
together?
we had a literacy team so we have a literacy team that is comprised of a primary and an intermediate teacher from each building. They've met 5 times this year. I wish Ms. Poppy was here because she facilitates those meetings with Ms. Abraham. They have been incredibly productive. We've been able to identify some of our non-negotiables, what are the areas of instruction that we think are important.
I believe you brought that up here a few months ago.
And I can have a report to the board to the end of the week as well regarding a summary of that.
So are you leaning towards a teacher college type program?
We're leaning towards a readers and writers workshop model. So that's the direction we're going. And right now we're evaluating, the last meeting they were evaluating resources.
Okay, and then as far as the math goes, Singapore math is one of the things you had mentioned today.
COMAC and us visited Jericho to look at the resources that they use. They use a program called Math in Focus. That's what COMAC is transitioning from modules to Math in Focus. We went to Half Hollow Hills. They use Envisions.
Well, what does Jericho use?
Jericho uses Math in Focus.
Oh, they do, okay, sorry.
COMAC, Bayshore, and Bayport Blue Point all were modules and transitioned to Math in Focus.
So that's where, that's what I was hearing, so I see you transitioning, but, not the way, not tomorrow.
It could be at the board's discretion of how quickly.
Is it a cost?
There's a cost to everything. I think there's associated professional development cost as well as the initial cost for the resources.
Are the teachers buying into this program that COMAC is using? Have you spoken to them about it?
We have not yet spoken to them about the rollout of the staff yet.
So what do you think of their program at Jericho, the Math in Focus?
I think both Mr. Tessio and myself, as well as Ms. Rizzo, feel that what we want to do is make sure that the work that our teachers have done has been honored, and we're able to have a transition that is smooth for them. And so there are a couple programs out there, a couple resources out there that do provide that smooth transition. One is the one that Mr. Ferrioli was holding up. The other is Math in Focus.
Well, if Mr. Ferrioli is not impressed with Go Math, I would not
I
be.
didn't say I was unimpressed with it, I didn't want to make it like I'm trying to push co-math. It's just what I happen to use. The Math in Focus is actually done by the same company at a different level. It's a higher level than co-math. So I just didn't want to seem like I'm pushing co-math. It just happens to be the one sample that I have because I use it.
And to go back to the survey that we were provided for by the CTA, I think the last question is really interesting, and it's something that we would like to have further dialogue with our teachers about. Is that would you like to have a combination of both modules and online textbooks and decide on what works best for your students? And the response rate was yes for 63% and no for 33%. So the use of the modules to continue as a resource for our teachers, but to look at other options that are available. It's just, at this point, it's deciding how quickly we want to move forward.
Essentially, wouldn't the modules then become an online resource because they're online? Where if we purchase another resource, we're not going to continue to bind and put together all the modules for them to sit on shelves for half the people to use them.
I think the reproducible portions of it would not be needed.
But this is a
Yeah,
process.
the online portion from.
So basically,
All of our modules are available online for our teachers right now.
Yeah, would be an online resource. Yeah, because I'm sure there's teachers that still want to use parts of it.
And I,
can you put something out for the teachers to respond to, in order to maybe expedite this or how they feel? I don't know the questions or the answers.
Well, I'm going to reach out to the CTA to see if we could disaggregate the data a little bit further and kind of tease out some of the things to use that data that they.
I think you're doing a great job, and as long as the teachers take ownership, that's I believe in that. They take ownership because I saw it in Literacy Collaborative a number of years ago when that started, and then it was taken away. But I never saw teachers galvanized when they did that point. Actually saw them walking in and out of that central office and the excitement going on in the schools because they were part of the change. I think that's what you're trying to do.
Can we have resources here before the end of the year for
we have resources
dissemination into the buildings that teachers can at least thumb through them and look at them and get a feel for maybe some of what the book looks like and what they might feel comfortable with, things like that. I know that's a stepping point.
So I'll put together an accelerated timeline and I'll have it available to you by Friday.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Okay, we're moving over to public comment. Step up to the podium, address the board president only.
Can we, I think we have people, the students, that they have to get home and get to bed. Is that possible, please? Thank you.
We'll give you due time. Just
I have no problem with that.
president only. You may address one or more topics in the time allotted. Individual employees, parents, or children should not be identified by name, title, position, grade, or building. I have to stress that no teacher's name should be used, a child name should be used. I have to stress that. Okay, come speak.
Hello. I would like to bring to the board's attention the coaching issue at hand. Colleen and I are currently the varsity cheerleading coaches and have been for the past 11 years. Recently, we were made aware of the fact that a teacher in the district wanted to take over the program and will be putting in a letter of intent to coach the varsity team. According to the teacher's contract, we are aware that teachers in district are entitled to their first choice in extracurricular activities. However, we ask that you take our coaching time span and investment in this program into consideration. Upon speaking with the teacher, I told her that I understood the teacher's contract and I respected her rights. I asked her, though, to please allow us to coach for one more year so that we may say our goodbyes and so that our team can have a transitional year to adjust properly. She refused to let us leave gracefully and informed the athletic office that she would be taking it now anyway. The following week, the teacher held a meeting for all girls interested in cheerleading the following year. She had yet to be appointed for the position, but held a meeting regardless. Being a teacher myself, I understand and respect the protection the teachers' union provides. However, if someone has done a job for an extended period of time without problems or issues, the person should be allowed the opportunity to bow out gracefully and should be afforded the opportunity of a final season to do so. A coach in good standing who has been loyal to the district for 11 years should not be blindsided and removed simply because someone else wanted the job. Whether union member, teacher, coach, administrator, board member, or parent, it is up to us to model appropriate behavior as we are leaders in the community. Taking a job from someone simply because you want it, yet refuse to pay them the respect of time for closure or honesty about intentions, I do not consider appropriate behavior to model for community's kids. In closing, we are asking for two things. First of all, that you consider the uniqueness of the situation and grant us one more year to go out with dignity. After that year, we would step down gracefully and the teacher can do as she wishes with the program. Secondly, I believe a change needs to be made. This has happened before and it will happen again. Teachers have a union to protect them, but should not abuse the union to get what they want when morally it is wrong. Coaches in the district were hired for a reason and needed to be interviewed in order to get the jobs they got. They are not random people, and although they may not deserve all the protection and rights that teachers get, they should have some protection in circumstances such as this. Thank you.
I'm going to follow up. I mean, she introduced the situation. I'm just going to follow up a little bit about the rule and propose that maybe for future coaches, it may be discussed that it's possibly changed so that veteran coaches are backed a little bit more since we do provide so much commitment to your district. So when the situation came about, I started inquiring with other coaches from other districts that what their policies were on this issue. And the general consensus that I received was that in these situations, an interview is at least conducted. Being that a varsity sports, it is a varsity sport, districts want what's best, the best and most qualified coach for the position. Varsity sports are extremely important to athletes. Connetquot should take pride in their athletics and want the programs to be the best they can be for the sole reason that their student athletes will benefit from it. If you allow any teacher to automatically take priority in any coaching position, you leave the door open to the destruction of some pretty amazing sports teams at Connetquot. Consequently, you stop encouraging your students to participate in these sports, and lastly, you close the door to potential scholarships for these students. As it stands, no matter how qualified or not qualified a teacher is, as long as the union backs him or her, he or she is automatically entitled to that position. I will not talk badly about the other candidate in this situation. I don't agree with the way she handled the situation. That's just my opinion, and it really doesn't matter in this situation. That being said, because of the union contract, our dedication to your district and your athletes will not even be considered. 11 years of commitment will just be thrown away without even a second thought. It just doesn't seem right to me. So I ask you to reconsider the rule, if not just for Lauren and I, but for future coaches or your athletic programs. Veteran coaches should have your support as well.
I propose that you interview the teachers in these situations and make sure that they are worthy of the coaching your athletic program before just removing someone that's dedicated so much time. Before you appoint a coach for this position, please look further into our situation and do a little research. Please speak with the athletic director, conduct an interview, and appoint the most qualified coach in the end. Thank you.
I have a question. What happens, say, this is just a random question. You stay on for an extra year, then what happens to the students?
Well, we want the extra year for the girls. I mean,
There's always new girls, though.
There's going to be new girls, but every year that we've coached, it's a learning process. I mean, we self-reflect each year. We look at what we did right, what we did wrong. With cheerleading, I know that there's a lot more to it than most people know, but the rubric that they're judged on takes a lot of research and a lot of time that we put in at home to learn how to better their routine so that they can succeed. And for the new coach stepping in, we'd like to help her and transition her into those new rubrics. She might have experience, but she doesn't have the experience we have, from 11 years coaching and taking these girls to national competitions year after year and receiving, national rankings, top 10 rankings with them. So we want to help her, but we just want one more year so that we can provide closure for them and for us, and then transition her in so that she can then lead the program for the next 11 years until someone else decides they want to take it over.
Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario
Okay.
that happened years ago. Something similar happened, and it really reaches peak in the summer. So the board decided to pay the other coach and continue with the coaches they had, and everyone was happy. The next year, the story's not over yet. The next year, these coaches then stepped aside and let the teacher and the district coach. All the kids quit. So at the end of the day, the year of the kids that quit, they had nothing to do in their senior year.
I actually am aware of that.
There's two sides to this story.
I was one of those girls that actually stepped up when all those other girls quit. I not only coached for your district, but I was part of your district. And I'm aware of that situation, and I would never advise our girls to do that because I don't think it's in the benefit of the program or themselves. Like, I don't feel like they should be here solely for us, but I do think that we built this program for them to succeed. And they will succeed years after us. I'm not saying we're the all-star coaches that are going to be the only coaches that will have, your program do well. But I do think that we deserve and they deserve one more year with us so we can transition them into a new coach and prepare them for that so that they will be able to stay on and succeed in future years. I mean, I can't say what they will or won't do. I don't think that they would all just quit because they love it too much, and we would never recommend that they do that. But can't speak on their behalf. Maybe they can speak, but we do everything we can to make sure that that didn't happen ever again.
Thank you.
So I started cheering when I was 6 years old, and Pano was actually my coach for CYFO, and that's like when the CYFO program was just starting and like it was just building. And now that I've been on varsity for 4 years, well, 3 years, sorry, but I am so grateful to have her through my whole career, basically. The only years that I didn't have her were middle school and junior varsity, and even junior varsity when I was on in 9th grade, we still practiced with varsity and we still like communicated with them, and they were always there to support you and always there to say what was right and what was wrong and help you out and always give you advice to do new things. And just having that experience is something that's so indescribable because you become so close with that person. Like, I've become so close with the coaches, and I know there's girls up there that have been on varsity. This will be their 5th year. Their senior year will be their 5th year on varsity. And to have your coach leave your last year is just heartbreaking. Not it's not only the moral standards behind it that it shouldn't really be allowed, but it's the emotional connection you have. It's so important that you have even that transition year to know that it's your last year. Because it's so heartbreaking to know that you can't do something that you've been working so hard for. That you've been working with your coach since 8th grade, and you get to 11th grade and you're waiting for your final year to go out on the mat and give everything you have because it's your last year, and you can't do it. And I personally this year, a week before we went to nationals, I tore my ACL, so I couldn't compete. But the coaches helped me through that so much. Not only as just a coach, but as a friend too. They were there to support me and there to give me advice and keep me grounded. And it's just so important to have that connection with your coach through those years. And I feel like if a new coach comes in right now, especially for the girls that are still on the team, I'm graduating, but they're gonna do it because they can't not do it. You're so in love with the sport, how can you not do it? But it's just, what would it be like if the coach you had for 4 years was there? You're always gonna wonder and you're always gonna want that because that's what you're used to. And it would be so unfair to not give the girls the right to have what they want for their last year. Or even the younger girls, the freshmen and the sophomores, to have that transition, to know that it's their last year and accept that they're gonna have a new coach next year. And change comes, but sometimes it needs to be gradual. It's not so static sometimes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I just want to remind everybody they have 3 minutes. I could give you a little bit extra, but it's 3 minutes.
I believe that it's not necessary as of this year to remove the position of coaching from the varsity cheerleading team that have worked 10 years to earn the spot. I do not see a benefit of changing the coaches, and there's no way predicting it will be a positive thing for the program. And the Connetquot cheerleaders will continue to grow and will not quit, and they'll represent Connetquot High School at nationals with the connections and relationships that the current coaches have built with the program that runs nationals that we go to, and all the connections they have with coaches of local schools that we compete with. And it's very hard for outsiders to understand how much pressure, work, and care is involved, and it is essential for the team that the coaches stay in their position. At least, I'm sorry, this is.
It's okay, take your time.
Sorry, I lost track. Spot.
Just speak from your heart.
Yeah.
Don't look at the paper, just speak from your heart.
Well, I'm a senior and I'm graduating, so I'm not even going to be the future of this program anymore. But I'm still here because I care for the girls that are coming up to succeed the way I'm going to, because I can really thank my coaches that I've had for so long and the experience they have, that I made my college cheerleading team, which is actually a very exciting thing for me, and they've won nationals twice for college. And I just want the girls that are still on the team to have the coaches that have been making past girls succeed like that, and at least for closure, like they were saying, basically. And I don't think that changing the coaches right this year with not that much warning is going to be great for the team, especially the pressure that cheerleading already has, that it just became a sport this year in section 11.
That's correct.
And I think that it's just going to be a lot for the girls with all these changes so much at once, and we want Connetquot to keep looking good through cheerleading, and we want to keep expanding, especially with how much it's not appreciated like other sports in the school. So,
Where are you going to school?
Towson University.
Good. Good luck.
Thank you.
Great, I'll figure it out, so, just wanted to make that note.
Are you still going for the viewers?
Yep.
I wasn't planning to come up here today. I was going to sit back and just listen because I've known both these coaches since they were elementary students. My daughter cheered at the same time as them, and then I have two that they coached. I went to nationals 6 years with them. I feel for the other seniors, the girls that won't have them as coaches, but to let the two coaches go out the way it looks like they may is just shameful for a teacher that teaches sportsmanship to our students to just come and take something that these girls, with the time that they put into cheering, coaching, 18 years, and somebody just walks up and says, I want it, like a spoiled brat. You have to find it in your heart to know that they did this with their heart and soul. I watched them grow up. I watched them coach through college, through marriage, through buying houses, through having babies. They stuck it out for 18 solid years. They deserve the year to go out the way they want. They deserve their last chance at nationals. They deserve to finish what they started. And that's all I can say.
Thank you.
Hi. I've had the opportunity to work with both Lauren and Colleen since the CYFO program that I was involved in. Lauren came to me when I met her back then and asked me a few years later to actually be treasurer for varsity. So I've been working with both Lauren and Colleen, and I truly have to say that their level of loyalty and commitment to the program has been something far beyond what I think any parent or you on the board or anybody is able to really see. The time and dedication that goes into it, the program that they do run, the girls that they have on the team I've also worked with since some of them started with the CYFO program, then became coaches themselves under the direction of their own two coaches. So they too will eventually move on to do this in our community. And this is what it is about. It's about our community and what we want. We want what's best for our community. We want what is best for our children. We want to teach them about loyalty and commitment. We want to teach them about how they can move on into their own futures and bring that type of person that they want to be. And they're learning it right here from two young ladies that have been involved in the program since they too were involved in the program, and now they've moved up and they've run the program and they're asking for one more year. I don't really think that it would be fair for us to not give them that opportunity. I do understand the teacher's contract and I respect that, but I don't think they're asking for too much. And I think if we can just show them that, and everybody else that also coaches that isn't a teacher in the district, that they too have rights. And they're just standing up and asking for something that they believe in. And they believe in it with their whole heart. And so do the girls, all the girls up there right now that are here. We're all here because it's in their hearts. They're bringing it to you and they're asking you to just listen and just consider it. And maybe, we can make changes. Life is about change. We all have to accept them. And sometimes it's not always what we want or what we feel might be perfect, but as time goes on, we do accept it. And this might be one of those changes that we may have to make at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I've been on this team since I was in 8th grade. I was in the first 8th graders, about a couple of them other ones. I can't even talk. And I've been on this team. Last year I did not do it for personal school reasons, but I was really looking forward to being able to spend my last year in high school with them and be able to see them and hang out with all the girls and just have my last year be good. like being with them since what, 8th grade. Like I've found more of myself as a person. They pushed me to the limit, and they pushed me beyond, and I'm very grateful for that. They've made me more than I could expect. And honestly, I don't know, I probably would not do the cheer team this year if they're not coming back, because the connection all the girls have with them, there's no other sport that's going to have that. We trust them with everything. When I went through a hard time, I went to them, I talked to them, they helped me through it, and I don't know what I would do without them. We have such a deep connection, and I just really hope you guys can see them.
Thank you.
I think I'm the last cheerleader.
Hi everybody, I've been a resident of the community for a long time, and I'm a high school teacher. I've been a teacher for 40 years, and I've been a high school coach for 40 years. So I can look at this from a few different perspectives. I put 4 children through the Connetquot schools, and I've watched very closely what Colleen and Lauren do with these girls, and as a teacher and as a coach my whole life, I know what the kids need. The kids need more than textbook instruction. They need somebody that actually cares about them. They need somebody that's going to take a real interest in their lives. And the more people from the community that get directly involved with the kids' lives, to the extent that these two get involved, and I've seen it firsthand, and I know exactly what they do. And yes, I watched them grow up as cheerleaders in the program, and I watched them become coaches and first find their way through the whole coaching thing and what it involved. And then they really are professional coaches. While they're a lot younger than me, they know how to coach, and they learn the important things about coaching. And they took the Connetquot program from its early stages to the point where now they're going to become a competitive varsity sport for the first time. And they've done it by making strong connections with the kids. And if you get a chance to watch what they do from the moment they begin the routines and all the time they put in to actually putting the routine together, to the point where they take the kids on the road. And I've been to Florida to watch their competitions, and I see what happens when they're there together. You'd understand that the more people we can put like them in touch with our kids in the Connetquot schools, the better the whole community is going to be. Because from this small group of cheerleaders is going to come a larger community of good people. And that's what we want. We want our kids to become good people, whether they're good cheerleaders or good baseball players or good science research students or good essay writers. We want the kids to become good people. And I think more than anything else, that's what these 2 girls do. They teach the young people of our community to grow up right and to do things right and to become good people. So I don't say we keep them on just for 1 more year. I say we keep them on until the time comes when they're ready to step down, and it's because they do such a good job. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Hi. I competed on the varsity cheerleading team for 3 years, from my sophomore year until the end of my senior year. I just finished my junior year of college at Johnson & Wales University.
Go girl.
And I feel like both of those coaches taught me way more than just cheerleading. They set up community service for us. I went out and I did all of that, and I competed, and I learned so much about teamwork. And I've gained a lot of qualities that are going to help me much further in my future. Things I can put on my resume to help me further my career. And I feel like that's so important. And being the situation, the incoming coach may not necessarily teach those same things to incoming members of the team. So I feel like that's just something that should definitely be considered. Thank you.
I just want to thank you for letting us go first. Go home and go to bed because you have school in the morning.
Thank you for those of you that were waiting patiently to let us speak. And I wasn't one of the ones that quit. I was one of the ones that stuck around in that situation. So that's why I passed that on. I don't want anyone thinking I'm a quitter.
All you girls that came out tonight, I think that's very, very nice that you came to support your mom. Good job, good job.
Yeah, you want to give them a minute, or we just keep going now?
Everyone has their time.
Mr. Felice, you have something to say tonight?
Yeah, just a couple of things.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. We talked before about the modules on, actually it was the last meeting, I believe. You guys talked about having the modules. We've been talking about them all year, as Nick said. Actually, I heard at the last meeting there was talk of hundreds of thousands of dollars spent on redoing these modules. And I kind of liken that to a surgeon cutting off your arm and using Band-Aids to fix it. We really need to stop using the modules. And as the Board of Education, you are supposed to direct the superintendent on how to distribute this stuff. So I'm urging you to do that in the next 2 weeks, in the next meeting. Get rid of the modules. The teachers have spoken. They said they don't want it. The parents, last meeting, all came up and told you that they don't want it. The 75% opt-out says that they don't want it. So please, as a Board of Ed, get together, whatever you got to do, that vote, whatever you have to do, but get rid of the module as a primary source. The other thing that was also talked about at the last meeting was the disposal of items. It was actually talked about a couple of times, but the last time we talked about was the Promethean boards. This time there is a refrigerator on the steps on the loading dock of OBMS. And I did mention to you back in, I don't know, February, March, that there are some boys that go around and they scrap this stuff for beautification projects in the community. So I'd like to know if those boys, I believe they're Boy Scouts, can go pick that up and scrap it. Otherwise, we're just throwing it out again and they're just sitting in the garbage pail getting wasted. Or should I have them go through the garbage pails and do that?
No, it's actually, it's in a scrap container, and the district receives compensation when that's disposed of.
Okay, because when I read the agenda yesterday, it said that it was sitting on the loading dock.
Yeah, until we say we can dispose of it, then we put it in the scrap container.
Okay. All right. The 5th grade benchmark test. It was discussed on 510 by Brad Lindell. Oh, sorry, I can't say names. And they were asked if the parents were aware that this test was being given. Were the parents notified? I know in a Facebook group they were, but did the school notify the parents about this test that's being given and that it was considered a benchmark test?
No.
Why not? Why aren't we telling parents about a test for these kids that they're not going to see, that we don't know the questions, and that don't help our kids at all? Why are we not notifying them?
We're discussing all different options right now, and we haven't made a decision either way.
Okay, because the last meeting you said you are giving this test, correct?
We are looking forward to giving this test, yes.
Okay, but you're not going to tell the parents about it?
We're in discussions right now on all different topics with all the different stakeholders.
Okay, so that doesn't really answer my question, but okay. Finally, I have a couple of things. Just let me know when my 3 minutes are up.
You have 31 seconds.
Okay, a lot of children, the Title I and the lack of services, someone, the CTA president, I didn't say a name, mentioned this at the 510 meeting, and that children have not received their services. I want to know if that's been fixed. Are they getting their services? I know I brought that up in January about the Title I lack of services for children, that the kids were being pulled out. And then it was told to me on 3/1 that all the teachers have been hired. While not mandated, they were built in some pretty amazing programs, and then last week it wasn't done.
Dean, can you answer my last question?
So the Title I services for our Title I buildings, all of our our instructional assistants have been hired, and were hired at that time that we spoke about. They are providing instruction for our students in both ELA and math. The challenge we have is the sub problem, that they are pulled at certain times to provide classroom work. I don't have the exact number of times that happens, but it is a concern of ours as well, and it's looking for something, we're trying to, as we move forward, a lot of things have been put in place with regards to the substitute pay and substitute work and all that different, those items, so hopefully that's going to remedy it.
Okay, do you have a timeline on that, or we just hope for the best and kind of like the modules, we're just going to hope for the best? I was being facetious, I'm sorry.
I don't think hoping for the best is an option right now. I think we're working with each of our buildings to make sure that the students are getting the services that they need, but balancing that with some of the sub-challenges that we have.
Okay.
I think Governor Cuomo's going to fix it.
Oh, yes, I'm going to vote for him again. Your thing went.
Okay, Mr. Felicio, you're my last speaker.
I wasn't going to speak tonight, but I have to respond to a couple of comments that were made. One, and I think part of the frustration here, I know I'm feeling, okay, is just with the modules, just with the covering of the classes. It's like we're taking a can and just keep kicking it down the road and nothing's happening. The bottom line is, and I have to address this to one of the board members who spoke before, this CTA, since I've been president for the last 3 years, has submitted a survey to this Board of Education. Ms. Kennedy was the only member on it 3 years ago, and tonight was the first night in 3 years I've ever heard her say anything negative about the modules or Common Core. In fact, Mrs. Kennedy, okay, actually has stated at board meetings the reason Mrs. Adams was hired is because she was a quote-unquote guru of the Common Core and the modules. The fact of the matter is, under Mrs. Staub, excuse me, it's my turn to speak. It is my turn to speak. I've waited here 4 hours to speak. That's the fact. The fact of the matter is, when Mrs. Staub was, Dr. Staub was here and Dr. Groveman, okay, when they left, the modules were not a priority. They were not the primary resource. In fact, quote unquote, Peggy Staub said, I don't care how you get to this teaching the standards, just get there. I don't care if you use the modules, I don't care if you use this book, that book, or the other book. Just get to the standards. Our teachers appreciated that and were happy to teach that way. When Mrs. Adams and Mr. Middleman came in, the modules became the primary resource, period, and that's a fact. Now, a couple other quick things. Talk about the IAs. Dean, wasn't going to pick on you tonight, but I don't know how you could sit up there with a straight face and say that the IAs, okay, are providing the services they're supposed to do, okay? 2 weeks ago, I did speak at the board meeting. My teachers are telling me there's another issue that's getting kicked. The can is getting kicked. The IAs are not providing the services they've been hired to provide. They're being used to act as substitutes. So please don't sit there. There's only a couple of us here, but don't sit there and tell me and insult my intelligence by telling me they're providing services. Yes, some of them are, but many of them are not. Survey. 80% or close to said they do not want the modules, okay? You cannot have the modules here in September again. I suggest strongly that you do something between now and September 1st to get rid of the modules, or at the very least, keep them as a resource for the ones that we've invested time and money in, where teacher A says, you know, this particular module works well with my kids. Let them know from administration that they're allowed to use that. Okay, that's not a crime. We've had this discussion, and many discussions about it. Let me just please finish, with all due respect. The reason your number for number 3 question on the survey, if you read all the comments that I shared with all of you, okay, is the reason that number is only 63% for the combination of online and using the modules as a resource. I think you'd probably see an 80-20 split, but our internet here, okay, we talk about all this smart money, whatever money we were talking about before, and these grandiose plans. Our teachers are afraid to jump into the online textbook, online resources, because many, many times our system is slow, I sit there in the morning with my e-school, and I watch the wheel go around and around and around. 7 minutes into the class, I could finally do attendance. Or the internet is down like it was a few days ago. Or it just doesn't work. So I think that number, if there were some guarantees and really improvements, okay, in our online technology and ability to get on the internet, and our computer stuff, technology, okay, I think that number would be very consistent with throw the modules out, go to some type of textbook where kids and parents can go online, okay, but the modules have to go. And just one other quick thing. I'll leave it for the next thing. Thank you. Thank you.
Do we have a second one tonight?
I've been waiting 4 hours doing this. This is not a negative. I just want to make a comment. Dr. Losing made a presentation, and I've had discussion with Board of Ed members in the past. The science program that she wants to bring in here. My daughter went through Plainview Bethpage. She was part of that program. It's a wonderful program there. All right. What it does for the students, as far as learning, as far as camaraderie, it was great. All right. What I'm going to caution the board, this is not something you can do half. Okay? It's either you don't do it or you do it. Because there is a commitment. I know money was brought up. There's going to be an investment in money. You do need that full-time. They have 2 full-timers there. All right? You're going to need that in order, you do need flexibility in order for students to be able to come in on their off periods. All that needs to be built in, but it is a wonderful program, and it's something I think would be a benefit to the district. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to personnel, Schedule 1. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Moving on to Schedule 2, appointments, tenure, and salary changes. I need a motion and a second.
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're moving on to financial matters. Okay, so we just need a motion and a second? I need a motion and a second?
Motion.
I'll second that. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to consent agenda. I just need a motion and a second. If we have time for discussion, if not, we can vote on this. Right, okay, so I need a motion and a second. If there's a discussion,
Motion.
I'll second it. Any questions on any of these items? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, I guess there is no exec session, so we're going to be moving out, adjourning this meeting.
Before we adjourn, I have a question.
Sure.
I know that it was brought up before, regarding the 5th, 6th grade test, and Dean said he was going to get back to us with some information. And we said that they're working on it, but is there any additional information at this point that you can share with us, or is that something that's still ongoing?
We've just concluded some meetings, so I'll be forwarding information.
Okay, thank you.
Before we close, can you
need a motion?
add Suffolk, Linda?
Yes.
Suffolk Transportation. I think they should be acknowledged for all they do, not just in Connetquot. I see that they just did some scholarships, but for all they do for the Iceland community, because they do an awful lot.
I need a motion and second to close the meeting.
Motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
I third
Good
it.
evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. No, we're not going into second.
No?
Did my son have anything back? All right, my husband did, so I'll tell him to come get us.
Really? It's almost up.
The back?